Hey guys, Pat here. Welcome to Box Office Addict, my weekly podcast live stream show, whatever the hell it is, where I talk about the weekend box office. I look at the marketing costs, I look at the budget, I look at the distributor, I look at who actually put the money up to make the movie, and we look at how the movie did as opposed to what people were expecting it to do, because expectations are typically different than actual results, as you know. But numbers never lie. Numbers are numbers, money is money. And this is quite the interesting weekend because this is the weekend after a holiday. And I said this last weekend to those who watched last weekend, which wasn't one of the highest rated, like it were on television. One of the most viewed episodes of Box Office Addict. My David Letterman. We got the highest ratings here. Or Jay Leno, God, to be that little bobblehead. Yeah, we got good ratings here. Yeah. Your thoughts on the Frozen short affecting Coco? Yeah, I think it did affect Coco. Yeah, I really think. Yeah. I don't know why they put a 25-minute short in front of Coco. What the hell idea was that? I get having a short in front of the movie. Most Disney animated films have a short in front of them. A lot of animated films have a short in front of them, and I never minded them. I remember Toy Story 3 had this really cool short in front of it called Night and Day or something. But they were always like 3 minutes, maybe 5. But apparently they put a 25-minute Frozen short film in front of Coco. So here's the thing about movies today. I don't know if the rest of you experience this. I don't know if you're savvy, hip people in the modern day and you go to the movie theater. There's these new things called theaters where you go sit down and watch a movie on a big screen. And it's pretty fun. And then they shoot the image of the movie across this big light that goes above your head, and it hits the screen, and then you see the movie in front of you, like really blown up, like you have a big television. See, I thought they were gonna wheel a TV out the first time I went to a movie theater. I was sitting there going, and this is back when I was a kid in the '90s, so I thought, man, this is gonna be like they're gonna bring out like a 32-inch television, maybe even a 40. Like they're gonna go big here. And then when the Flintstones movie started, starring John Goodman as Fred Flintstone, one of the great masterpieces of movies is the Flintstones movie. Kyle MacLachlan as the bad guy. Absolutely terrific. Yes, a 25-minute short. What is this? This is like the old days. Like back in old movie days when you'd go see two movies, you'd see a double feature, and they'd play like animated stuff before it. Like they'd play a bunch of cartoons from Disney or Warner Brothers or something, and then you would watch a movie, and you'd pay like $3 or probably less than that back then and eat your popcorn and have your soda. But yeah, Coco, I think it's affecting the movie. It has to be. It has to be because let me talk to you hip teenage kids out there about these movie theaters, these new things, these new inventions. In the movie theater, now because they don't make a lot of money like they used to, because less people go to the theater, and I think I'm pretty sure the companies are making more money off tickets than they ever did. I don't think the theaters are keeping much. They have to make money on concessions, and I believe advertisements, ads. So when you go to see when a movie comes out here in my town, I'm always like, okay, the movie starts. Let's say it starts at 3:30. All right, let's say that, and I'm like, oh, cool, 3:30. That's sweet. All right, I'm gonna be there at like 3:25, so I can be there in time for the movie. Get there at 3:25, right? Trailers play for at least 20 minutes. I mean minimum at most movie theaters. You will watch 20 minutes, if not more, of trailers. So you get there, let's say you get there at 3:25. You're not done. The movie doesn't really start till 3:45. Then you have to watch the whole movie. So like when I saw Blade Runner 2049, I had to wait like a half hour before the movie started. Then I had to watch a 3-hour movie. Not complaining about sitting there to watch a movie. I'm just complaining that I had to sit there and wait because you want to get there on time, but it's pointless. There's no reason to go to the movie theater anymore to watch a trailer. You can just watch the trailer on YouTube or on the internet somewhere, so screw that. I used to go to see the trailers, but so you said if you get there early too, they're just showing you commercials. They don't even have the movie trivia anymore, or they ask you questions and you can sit there and be like, "I know who won the Academy Award in 1994. Oh my God, I'm gonna shout it out so everyone in the theater knows how smart I am." Meanwhile, Paul Rubens is in the back jerking off. I love this movie, Choppy. But you're there 3:30, and yeah, you get there. If you get there early, there's no point because you're gonna sit there half hour. So I start going to the movies late. I'm like, okay, movie starts at 3:30. I'm gonna show up at 3:40. Right? Then you get 5 minutes preview. But imagine this. You go to see Coco, right? This would screw my plan up. This would screw my James Bond-esque planning here. I'd get there and I'd be like, all right, I'm going to get there. Let's say Coco starts at 4. I'll get there at 3:50. I'll have plenty of time. I'll have 10 minutes to, like, go take a leak in the bathroom, get in the theater, and go. Okay, but imagine this. I show up then. I think I've avoided the trailers. And then I walk in and I'm catching the tail end of a Frozen short. Then it's like, oh God, no. No, how long has this been on? So my question is, do you still have to watch the 20-minute of previews and a 25-minute Frozen short? Or did they just replace trailers and stuff like that with the Frozen short? Because if they didn't, then there's 45 minutes of content before your movie starts. Coco's only like an hour and 40-something minutes long, so a good chunk of the length of Coco, before you even see a good chunk of the actual length of the movie, you can actually experience that length before you go in. That's like trying to watch a YouTube video that's like 10 minutes, and before you watch the video, somebody makes you watch another 10-minute video before that from some other random thing that's connected. Like, oh, you like Let's Plays? Here's another Let's Play for 10 minutes, and then you have to watch ads for about 5 minutes before you get to watch the video you originally clicked on. Really weird business strategy. Here's what Disney was probably assuming. Because Frozen is such a big deal, the biggest animated movie ever, it made all of the money ever. Like, because in Japan especially, they just love Frozen. They just run down the streets just dressed up in Frozen costumes. I'm sure half of Japan is dressed up like Elsa right now. When you're there, that part's surreal, because I think what they thought is, oh, Frozen's such a big deal, if I don't mind film trailers. It's the adverts of the other stuff that ticks me up. Same here. I don't know, man. It depends. You ever sit through a really bad trailer in a theater where people are enjoying that bad trailer? Like, you'll see a trailer for a terrible generic comedy or a terrible rom-com or some terrible blot, and everyone in the theater's like, oh my God, this is so funny and so good. The cacklers. I mean, it really makes me think about suicide. I mean, it's upsetting. I would be less annoyed if Robert De Niro was smoking a cigar in the front row laughing at everything like in Cape Fear. I'd be less upset. There's nothing worse than a cackler. Oh, I'm going to laugh at every single joke. Every joke is worthy of a big laugh, a big stomach laugh. I can't just give it a little chuckle, heck, a smile even. Let's be subtle, just a little smirk. No, I have to give it a full belly laugh. Oh, that Adam Sandler's so funny. Oh, it's unbearable. I can't deal with it. I don't like cringe trailers. Trailers to me, like, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of good movie trailers and a lot of good movies that come out, but bad movies can have a good trailer and good movies can have a bad trailer. And that experience is very uncomfortable for me. I get very uncomfortable in those moments. At least in my country, a trailer only lasts for like 10 minutes. Where's your country? In your countries? In your countries? What's your countries? I didn't know you had more. How many countries do you have, Bathory? What are you, a dictator? Why don't you take over? I'd like to know. What is it? Different countries in different parts of the world? Is it on different continents, or is it all just how many countries do you have around the world? Is my question. Do you have like? Let's mark it off. What do you? I'm curious. Yeah, in my countries, they only play the trailers for 20 minutes. Yeah, they play the trailers absurdly long everywhere I go to the theater here, and it really does get annoying. But so they probably thought that people would go run to the theater go see the Frozen short, right? Because Frozen came out and like I said, made $1.2 billion. So I'm assuming they thought, hey, if we put Frozen thing in front of Coco, everyone's going to go run to see the Frozen thing because people want more Frozen. But the thing is, people want a sequel to Frozen. They want more. Oh man, I have no room being a grammar Nazi. I have no room. I have the worst grammar known to man, so it's okay. I still get less and fewer confused, and I know the rule, and I still get it screwed up. So I can't do anything about it. But yeah, the thing about it is damn errors. Yeah, F your errors. You're supposed to be like my sidekick and formed one, and you can't even do that. What's wrong with you? Like, I'm gonna have to fire you. I mean, hell, come on. But yeah, they probably put the Frozen short front, and they're like, okay, this is genius. And this will be a great marketing idea. But people want a sequel to Frozen. They want to go see Frozen 2, which Disney, for some reason, is taking forever to make. They don't want to go watch Coco, a Pixar movie, which is not associated with just, like, the Disney animation side, like the princess stuff. So it's like, oh, let's just go. So you go to watch Coco because you like the trailers and you want to see Coco. What if you don't like Frozen, and then you gotta sit there and watch Frozen? I will give you this, Bathory. You are still better than Robin Quivers. If you are my Robin Quivers, you're still better than that. You're not laughing at every bad joke I make, and I don't just have you here so I can make fun of black people. Sorry, Howard. Oh, let's rip off Razor Fist. But Razor, what about that little thing he does where he gets his voice all high pitched and gets all like, but Razor, and he thinks he's gonna make a point because he does the Tiny Fist. He's no longer Razor Fist. I'm gonna call him Tiny Fist. Look up Razor Fist on Encyclopedia Dramatica. It'll be one of the funniest things you've ever experienced. Tiny Fist. Tiny Fist! I'm not compensating for a small package. Still haven't seen the first one. Seen the first what? The Frozen? Oh, it might leave you a little cold. Ha ha ha. Alright, let's get to the box office. Holy crap, what am I doing? This is a waste of time. I'm just a regular waifu. Man, no, you're just a regular 15-year-old pretending to be older than you are and trying to make yourself sound interesting. I know your game, Bathory. You're really some guy named, like, Billy who's 15 that lives in, like, Illinois or something, and you just play WoW all the time or something like that. You're obsessed with games that haven't been relevant for a decade, and you talk about them like they're still relevant with all your friends, and then you go play tabletops like Pathfinder, and you talk about how cool it is with all your buddies. And you're like, oh my god, Pathfinder, look how hip we are. We don't need to play RPGs in the game form. We can just play them on a table. That's who you are. And then you come on here and try to tell me that Pat is so the ex-wife of Razor. Oh, come on, I wouldn't marry him. I wouldn't want to sit around all day and hear about the same genre of music forever and hear how simplistic and narrow your views are on those things. We'd get along on Michael Jackson though. We just sit around all day. I have like 10 posters on my wall of Michael Jackson's. That's pretty good. But then, yeah, Razor would start going on about how good Iron Maiden or anything is, and I would just laugh for 10 minutes straight. 10 minutes straight. But he's never seemed to praise Metallica, so I'll give him a pass on that. He's never seemed to talk about the terrible band that is Metallica and the worst drummer in a mainstream band ever, Lars Ulrich. Never been a worse drummer to be famous than that guy. He can hardly even play his drum. In fact, Kurt Hammett can hardly play guitar anymore. You watch Metallica live shows and they can't even play their instruments, and it's like it's an in-joke with the fans, and they just sit around and laugh about it that Metallica's so terrible. And, hey, what are you going to say? Oh, what about Master of Puppets and Ride the Lightning? Yeah, you mean those really overrated thrash albums that are dated now, except for 2 or 3 tracks? You mean how every song's Fade to Black or one? Cool. Yeah, I'll go listen to Slayer. Yeah, the only thing good about Metallica was Cliff Burton, and then unfortunately he died with the bus. That's just suspicious, right? Because who's gonna get rid of the most talented member of the band, the Jimi Hendrix of bass, if you will, the guy who really created that, who got the distortion down and everything. He basically worked as a lead guitarist in a way with the bass, and it's funny. Him and Lars are up drinking on the bus, the only 2 guys left, and before the bus flips over, and dies. So my theory's always been Lars killed Cliff to move on. I just got the entire Neon Genesis Evangelion series for free, along with an art book. Well, hey man, awesome. Congratulations! Congratulations! You did it! Congratulations. Lulu is a masterpiece. Okay, cool. I'll take that. I think you're stretching the term masterpiece a little bit, but that's fine. It's a subjective thing. Remember, guys, God, I'm trying not to swear. I don't want to lose them on, I'm trying not to swear. It's tough. You want to say swear words, like every other, I realize how limited my vocabulary is that I can't say anything without swearing. I'm like, God, I guess I gotta find new ways of saying it. Alright, you frickin' people, you Captain Falcons, you mother farmers, let's get to this. And I used to like Wasp. One thing chicks all like that confuses me. You notice all women like Rat, the band Rat. Every girl I've ever dated, every woman I've ever known, and I mean this, except for like older ladies, like grandmothers, but everyone who's like my mother's age or girls I've known. Yeah, for some reason you put rat on. They freaking love Rat. Specifically, later on, girls like Poison and Motley Crue and all that stuff. But man, Rat's like crazy with women. They're all like, oh God, round and round, goes around, comes around. I'll tell you why. Why? Tell me why, please. I want to know. I'll tell you why. Why? Why Rat? You know, what a specific rat to tease. How clever. What if they... I don't know. There's so many... They could have been bug. They could have been hippo. They could have been rhino. You never heard of Rat? Man, they had like one of the most famous songs from the 80s, I'd say. Saw Blade Runner 2049 a second time in the theater. After getting past the incredible visuals first time out, this time was more moving, appreciated emotionally, and motivation of supporting character. Man, you're bringing a tear down to my eye. How beautiful. Don't know why you try avoiding swearing. YouTube doesn't seem to care about it. Yeah, they don't really care if you don't swear. You get demonetized, and if you do swear, you get demonetized. So it's a no-win scenario. It's truly the Kobayashi Maru test. They want you to fail. Here's some rules. Go out and try. You need some misfits in your life. Actual misfits or the band Misfits? Who? Although I'm 26, I never understood what the kids are into. Into Rat? Yeah, Rat, that new band for the kids. They're really hip with the teens. I love you, Child of the Flower. You're wonderful. Yeah, YouTube doesn't seem to care. That's true. Whatever. What do you think about the new GOP tax bill? I don't know, man. Everyone who's not Republican, conservative's going to hate it and say it's the worst thing that's ever happened to the country, and it's just going to benefit billionaires and rich people, and it's going to hurt the middle class and poor people, and trickle-down economics doesn't work, blah, blah, blah. And I know you're talking about the band. I was just kidding. I know you mean the band, the Misfits. Calm down. Don't worry. Go to Hot Topic. Get your T-shirt. It's fine. I'm sure there's a Spencer's and a Hot Topic in some mall somewhere that you work at. Probably work at the pretzel place in the mall. That's fine. Those pretzels are delicious. And everyone who is a conservative will say that it's not as bad as everyone else is saying. And people are overreacting and blah, blah, blah. I mean, I don't know. You know, I mean, it doesn't seem like the best thing. It doesn't seem like it was the greatest tax bill. I would have liked a different one from what I read about it. I mean, I'm all for some tax cuts, especially for businesses, considering my family was in business a lot, like owning their own businesses. So I'm in for that, like cutting down regulations and giving tax breaks to people that own their own. But I don't know. I don't know too much about the how intricate it is, and I don't know much about it. But it doesn't seem like that good of a thing, but I could be wrong. All I've read about is that it seems like it isn't really going to do much, but I don't know the ins and outs of it. I'm not like with everyone where I think rich people should just... I'm not like everyone else in this country talks where they think rich people should just get taxed like 100 times over because they make more money than everyone else, so they should pay more. I'm kind of a libertarian naturally, so I'm not really into taxes at all. Oh, you don't work? You're a mom? Oh. Okay, well that's awesome. So you make just like pretzels for your kids and stuff. That's cool. Hey, when your kids get old enough, get them into my my YouTube channel. They might be a little too young now, and that's fine. But get them in and we'll have a good time. Was J.J. Abrams responsible for that Rat song? Because the song means nothing and has no ending. Yeah, I don't get it either. Yeah, exactly. It's just like Abrams. Shapiro likes it? Does Shapiro like the deal? Oh, then I guess I need to watch Ben Shapiro on it. So I don't know. I really don't know a lot about it. I'm not going to pretend I know more about it than I do. I'm no expert on these things. But, you know, these things go in cycles. Everyone's unhappy with something. You either love or hate Obamacare. Or you either love or hate anything that happens. So I don't know. A lot of it seems like it's subjective. I don't really think there's an objective way to look at any of those things, but maybe there is, and I don't know. The show on BBC called Misfits was pretty good. That's one of my favorite shows for the first 2 seasons when Robert Sheehan was on. Who are we? I mean, who are we to judge? They were in the bathroom doing it. He's a terrific actor. He should get way more work. I love him. And Ramsay Bolton started on there, actually, from Game of Thrones. Apparently, Disney is going to have a 21-minute long Frozen Olaf short film removed from all copies of... They should remove it. It was a horrible idea. Let's just cram our movie that people want to get with more movie instead of just making Frozen 2. Jesus. What's wrong with you people? I'm just messing around. I'm in a weird mood today. I think you can tell. You know, I've been staying up late listening to comedy stuff and watching podcasts and listening to Stern and watching old David Letterman's from the 80s. That's been fun. I've been staying up late watching David Letterman. Misfits was good in the first season, but kind of fell apart during... I agree it kind of fell apart, but I still like season 2. But once Nathan left, the show just really dropped for me. Season 3 still okay, though. But after that, I don't like Misfits at all. Misfits, the first season's like perfect, no doubt. Great finale, too. Awesome. But yeah, what's with the short in front of... That's ridiculous. How long is this... How long... Oh, we've been talking 20 minutes. Long intro. Alright, I guess I should actually get to some box office. Should probably talk about the topic itself. What am I going on about? Alright, let's look at this, people. Let's get this done. Let's get through this together. I'll hold your hand through it. I will walk you through this. I will be here. I will carry you over the beach, and you will see my footprints. My footprints weren't there with you. I listened to like 2 tracks, man. I didn't get a chance to listen to all of it. But I will. Well, it wasn't even cast changes, wasn't it? That wasn't it Robert Sheehan just left? He wanted to go make movies. He didn't want to work on Misfits anymore. I liked your defense of Apu video. Thank you, man. I thought that video would be more controversial. I thought people would get more offended by certain aspects of it. And it's funny because one thing I said was about, you know, the voice and how I knew people that had talked that way, and I knew a guy who owned a 7-Eleven. And recently I just watched a Hank Azaria interview on Howard Stern, I think from recently, like maybe even this year or a couple years ago, and he talked about Apu's voice being based off his Indian friends he had when he was young, and a guy who did work at 7-Eleven. Like, so that was kind of funny, because that was a point I made, and I thought, man, are people going to get offended by that I said that? Like, they're thinking I assume that's the way it is, but then he's on there talking about it like, well, yeah, that's who I grew up, that's where I because he bases his voice, his voices are based off people he knows. Everyone's voice is based off somebody he knows. He knew someone that sounded like Apu. And that's what I was trying to convey with that video. It's like, you don't get to define what a voice is, I guess? You can talk about culture, and that's true. And you can talk about how a culture and a person's represented. I get that, and I'm sympathetic. But when you're getting so specific, I mean, that article, when it said white comedian, that's very telling. They don't want to just put up a comedian voice as a character. It's got to be a white comedian voice as a character. A white comedian. Why can't it just be a comedian voice? What does it matter? It doesn't matter what color the comedian is when they're... That's one of the dumbest things about that article, is that the rules of comedy don't... the rules to other things don't apply. Yeah, you can't make a slavery movie about the American slavery with white people as the slaves, with only white people. You could have maybe some Irish people in there. But you can't not have black people. That makes sense. You can make a comedy with anyone doing... I mean, it's a comedy. Like, they don't, like, it, there's a satirical nature to it. There's something self-aware about it that you can do in comedy, that, you know, and this is why nobody got offended when Robert Downey Jr. did blackface in Tropic Thunder. It was funny and worked, and they were able to get away with it. Isn't Hank Azaria Jewish? He might be, I don't know. I guess he's Jewish. Stereotypes are found all over comedy, so why does it matter if Apu's a stereotype? Because it matters now that the show's been on 27 years and it's past its prime, and we need to talk about it like it doesn't matter. Man, it's not that racism's funny. It's that observations about differences between people are funny. It's like pointing out somebody's a fat person. It's not just being mean. Sometimes it's funny to do that because people sometimes think cruel things about it. Everyone's judgmental. I don't believe this rule that there's people that aren't judgmental. I believe everyone is a little judgmental. But it's like pointing out anything in life. There's a reason you do it, and you break it down and you make it funny. And as long as you're not being too grating or insulting or too one way. And I don't think Apu's that way. Apu is a very likable character. And you get when it's funny. You don't actually, anyone who actually thinks that Indian people are like Apu all the time, and they're gonna shoot you with the shotgun if you do anything, and they're like, then that's on you. That's not on the writers of The Simpsons for being clever. If that character, like, I don't think that stuff about Indian people, because I watched that. Funny, since black did own slaves in the United States and didn't just own to save their relatives, contrary to what is taught in school. I mean, there's a lot of things about that time that's not really taught in school. Like just how many slaves were actually owned. The actual amount of slaves that were owned during that time, the parts of the country that, like, if you were to just go off what a lot of people say, you would think that the entire United States had slaves, and it was like a large, and I think it was only 6% of the country had slaves. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was a very small amount of the country did. That doesn't excuse it. It's just weird. The numbers do get inflated. Really weird. I don't know why. There's no need to inflate the numbers. It's already bad enough. Like, the fact that there was that many slaves at all is horrible. You don't need to add more onto it to make it a worse thing. Like, it's already bad. I wouldn't add more to it. But wasn't Apu probably included to be inclusive? I don't know if he was included to be inclusive. I think they just thought it would be a funny character and a funny voice, and they didn't really overthink it. I don't think it's that overdone. Yeah. What are you, Bathory? Are you British? What the hell are you? Don't tell me you're British, because I don't want you condescending to me how better you are because you have an accent that gives you 20 IQ points extra. Meanwhile, Samurai Jack is voiced by a black voice actor. Yeah, that's a great point. Nobody cares about that. That's a terrific. Isn't Phil Lamar? That's a great point. Yeah, why does he get to be a samurai? What the hell? They're voice actors. Voice actors play different characters. Oh my god, it's almost like Billy West could do all sorts of different voices and stuff. It's crazy. Yeah, what... Yeah, I don't know why we're getting into slavery. I don't want... God, get to the movies. How long are we... Oh, God, almost 30 minutes here. This is the worst box office addict ever. I haven't talked about one movie. Do you guys like the Christmas video? We're going to be doing more live action videos. Once I get done making my current movie right now that I've been working on for like 2 months. Been shooting for 2 months. We're gonna have a 10 to 12 week schedule in total of just shooting. When we're done with that, I'm gonna get some more live. We got like at least 3 different shows planned, live action stuff. So that was kind of a taste of what it was gonna be. But yeah, a lot more stuff with me and Sharkfoot coming down the pipeline. Okay, for some reason they released Titanic again, 20th anniversary, even though it had that 3D release a few years ago. It made $415,000 at 87 theaters. Actually, not that bad, considering this movie's been out many times. You know, it was out a year in the theaters, then it was re-released. And who hasn't seen Titanic? I mean, if you didn't see it in the theater, you saw it on video. Okay. Call Me By Your Name. This is what I was kind of worried about. They didn't expand it, but they're being clever about this. It still made $70,000 on average theater. Last week it made $100,000. I think $101,000. It made $281,000 this weekend. Last weekend it made $412,000, but it's still only in 4 theaters, so they didn't really give it a chance to expand. I don't know why they didn't open it in, like, they didn't go to like 7 or 8 theaters this week, and I'm not sure why they kept it at 4. You think it would be this gradual release where it would get bigger and bigger and bigger, but I don't know. Oh, okay. You're my boy. You're my boy. Oh, cool. You hate Titanic. Great. That's awesome. Tell me how much you hate Forrest Gump, too. I can't wait to hear about that one. Yeah. That's great. I miss being on IMDb in 2003 and hearing about how terrible those movies are. So exciting. Do you hate Avatar, too? That must be fun. Do you compare it to Dances with Wolves? That must be nice. How clever. I'm just messing with you. The Titanic hate is just so burnt out at this point. It's like, because I like Titanic, but I get why people have problems with it. But it gets to this point where it's like, it's kind of like, okay, well, just, you know, like, whatever. It happened. It came out. It made the money. Like, who cares? There were so many years people were still harping on Titanic. Like, they just couldn't get over Titanic. They were like, they seemed upset that it was successful. The same thing with Forrest Gump when that turned, when it was like, well, that movie just sucks now. And that's like, oh, great. I love hearing that stuff. That's so fun. It's so fun to talk about how much you don't like a movie that made a lot of money. It's like, cool. Dances with Wolves was Smurfs, to be exact. Man, Dances with Wolves wasn't even an original movie. That's the funniest thing about it. Whenever everyone brings up like Dances with Wolves with Avatar, I'm like, why do you act like Dances with Wolves was an original concept? At the time when Dances with Wolves came out, I would argue it's just as cheesy and generic as Avatar. It's not like that was an original movie. I mean, that story wasn't original, that kind of movie wasn't original, but I don't like Dances with Wolves at all. Well, I like the scene where Kevin Costner tries to commit suicide and he doesn't get shot by the guns and he's riding on the horse. That's pretty great. And it is well directed. But it's like, God, it's like so generic. I mean, it's weird Avatar got all that crap and Dance with Wolves doesn't get... I mean, Dance with Wolves beat Goodfellas for Best Picture. Come on. Like, Avatar just made a lot of money. But, man. Ugh. It ticks me off that, like, wait, Scorsese lost to Robert Redford for Ordinary People. Okay. And then he loses to Dances with Wolves? Ugh. Sickens me. What is the world coming to? Life is like a box of chocolates. Oh, God. I may not be a smart man, but I know what love is. Dance with Wolves was the first big 3-hour movie after, I think, Towering... I mean, like a blockbuster 3-hour movie? No, Heaven's Gate came out in, like, 1980 and bombed really bad, and it was a 3-hour epic. Remember Heaven's Gate? The director of The Deer Hunter? One of the biggest disasters ever made. Also, when you say that Apocalypse Now is an epic, and the Godfather movies were 3 hours, and Amadeus... Oh, man, screw the Oscars. I don't give a crap about the Oscars. They get Best Picture wrong almost every year. It's annoying. And it's not even just like... I know it's an opinion thing, and I get that, but some of the movies they give Best Picture, you're like, really? Chariots of Fire. Chariots of frickin' Fire. That is one of the most dry, boring films. Oh, my God, it's hard to watch. That was the same year Reds came out, Raiders of the Lost Ark, a couple other movies that were far better. The only thing anyone remembers about Chariots of Fire is the music and the guys running in slow motion. You have these two guys in the leads that are so boring. I mean, it's the most British movie ever. It's so freaking dry. It's so hard to watch. Even when I was young, I watched it as a kid and I didn't like it. And I thought, man, when I get older, I'll like it. And it just got worse and worse. Man, if the Oscars are a popularity contest, then I don't know what they were thinking when they gave it to Chariots of Fire. Like, I mean, that movie made money, but Jesus Christ, like, talk about a popular movie. Yeah, man, all the kids love Chariots of Fire. That's what they're going to see. They're going to see that movie. That's the one everyone wants to go see. Yeah, that English Patient. That's really killing with the teenage market. Sure is hip. That's a popular one. Yeah, soundtrack on Chariots. Yeah, the cinematography is great. Like, the slow motion shots are terrific on Chariots of Fire. Absolutely wonderful. And Vangelis, of course. The Oscars have lost a lot of relevance in the last few decades. The whole movie industry's lost a lot of relevance in the last few decades, I'd say. I'd say it's in every facet of the industry that people are less interested in it. I don't think it's bad. It's just boring, man. Like, it's not that it's a bad movie. Chariots of Fire is a good movie. But it's like a television movie. It's really not that... This is the thing about the 80s when some of those movies would get acclaimed. It was before we had a lot of TV movies like Chariots of Fire. If that was just an HBO movie now, it would be just like every other generic HBO movie that they've ever made. But it's because it was made then people somehow praised it. Because you watch it, it really is just dull. I mean, it's got good scenes. Like I said, and the scene at the end's amazing. God gave me the speed to run fast and all that, you know. But it's really just two guys hanging out, and it's your typical period piece that the characters really don't... I can't even think of the characters' names. They weren't that interesting. I mean, it's not like those actors went on to be great. I mean, compare that to just the sheer kinetic energy of Raiders of the Lost Ark. I don't think... It's not that it's bad. Chariots of Fire is just dull. It's like a 7 out of 10 movie or a 6.5... It's like a 3 out of 4 star movie that won Best Picture and got a bunch of rave reviews because it's just okay. It's some movie you watch with your grandma one day and she really likes it. And you go, yeah, I like it too, Grandma. It's very good. I love you, Grandma. Let's be honest. People only hate Titanic because of the song. I mean, I think they don't like the dialogue in the first half, but I don't know how you couldn't like the second half once the ship starts sinking. Oh, yeah, this thing, King's Speech, another example. King's Speech made a lot of money. Got great reviews, won all the Oscars, beat Social Network, Inception, Black Swan, all far superior, more interesting films. And it's very dull. It's like an HBO movie. You watch it. It was originally written to be a play, and it feels like a play. And you go watch it, and you're like, yeah, this is really just a theater play or an HBO movie with more of a budget. And apparently it was the best movie of the year. And you're like, all right, I guess we'll go with that. I wish I liked English Patient. I need to say close to like Anthony Minghella. I'm not big on English Patient. I don't think it's bad, but man, there's scenes in that movie I'm like, I get what they're going for, and there is great stuff about it. There really is. Like, there's stuff about it that's absolutely terrific, but... See, I really like Shakespeare in Love. That one doesn't bother me as much, Shakespeare in Love winning Best Picture. I know that's a big controversial one, but... I actually really like Shakespeare in Love and thought it was a great movie. Yeah, I do need to get to movies. Holy crap, 35 minutes. Welcome to Box Office Addict, that show where I don't talk about the box office. And talk about everything else. Alright, The Disaster Artist. This is a big deal. James Franco, well, not, let's say mainstream directorial debut, because he's made like 18 movies and written 5 books that nobody's read and watched, because he's apparently a terrible filmmaker and writer. I read one of his books one day at the library. I was sitting in there, and I just picked it up. It was on the shelf, and I saw it randomly. I saw his name, and I go, crap, I gotta get that. So I just sat there, and I read it over like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and I was just laughing the whole time. James Franco's, he's not a pseudo-intellectual. Don't get me wrong, like, he is a smart guy and very educated, and his family was educated, and he has that background. I'm not knocking him. But he doesn't have the talent to back up the like, I'm going to be a writer, I'm going to be a painter, I'm going to be a director. This movie got a lot of hype because of the trailers and reviews coming out. James Franco might get an Oscar nomination. He's not just doing an impression, he transcends. Now, I don't quite agree with that. I think it is just an impression. But if you haven't read the book, The Disaster Artist, it's amazing. And I also recommend the audiobook that Greg read. Terrific book. But I think this movie could have benefited from another director. It's not knocking James Franco. It's just someone else could have given this a different energy. He still has kind of an amateurish directorial style. He's just not that good at it. Directing, you either have it or you don't. It really is. It's not always just stories, but he had a heck of a story to tell here. This movie's slowly been building hype, awards hype. Even the National Board of Review gave it Best Screenplay, I think, original screenplay, or adapted screenplay. But it opened in 19 theaters and made $1.2 million, which gives it an average of $64,000 per theater, which is pretty good. This is a pretty good opening. Now, James Franco's career has been a weird thing of off and on. Now, look at this. Child of God, Interior, Leather Bar, Sal, As I Lay Dying. None of these movies even made $100,000. He's been trying to make Blood Meridian for years, and thank God that didn't happen. But James Franco's career is weird because he's not really he's a big star and not at the same time. Like, why him? Look at this. Wasn't a bomb. Cost $38 million, made $118 million worldwide. Didn't do bad, but just did okay. Stuff like Sausage Party, he just does a voice in. He's not really a joke. Man, now looking at it, he hasn't been in a hit movie in forever. Holy crap. The last movie he was in that actually made a lot of money was This Is the End, which was, yeah, a while ago. Which he was actually pretty good in that. Oz, which he was terrible in. Oh, Spring Breakers. Man, I got shorts, 50 different colors, man. Alien. I thought we could be friends. And then Rise of the Planet of the Apes was his last really big break. Yeah, so he's always been kind of like, he could show up in a movie that makes money like Pineapple Express and then do a movie like Milk and get some love, or 127 Hours, but he's not really a big star. He's just somebody everyone knows, but he seems to work best in ensembles. But this has the team together: Seth Rogen, Dave Franco, Bryan Cranston's in this, Sharon Stone, Jesus. Oh, but this is a good opening. 1.2 million in 19 theaters. So for him directing this and Loving Tommy Wiseau and The Room, you know, a lot of people thinking that's an obscure movie, and it's really becoming that it's really become that popular. I think this is impressive because this could have really been a disaster in itself, where you're like, what the heck is this movie? Ed Wood's one of my favorite movies of all time, directed by Tim Burton. Very similar kind of film, similar kind of premise. And I'm fed up hearing about The Room. I refuse to watch it. Oh, you betray me. Don't you get it, Craig? You're breaking my heart. The issue with James Franco is that he normally comes across to people as some kind of pothead. It's because he's really boring. God, remember when he hosted the Oscars? Oh my God. Jesus Christ, that was one of the worst things. She's like, hey, I'm going to sit up here and not try for 3 hours and bore you in a boring 3-hour show that's already unbearable. Man, I remember Spring Breakers for everything. Harmony Korine's always going to get a pass for me. I love him. He will, any movie he makes. Oh, dude, I agree Spring Breakers reminded me of Refn too. I like the visuals too. It sucks that the second half kind of falls apart. The first half's so good, and then the second half they just kind of falls apart as satire and all that. But I still think there's a lot of good stuff in Spring Breakers, and it's like total guilty pleasure of mine. And it's the first time I really like Skrillex is used well in anything. Like Skrillex comes in and it's like, this is actually kind of awesome. And I hate Skrillex, like bro dubstep, and then you hear it in that movie and you're like, this is awesome. Oh my God. But I've been hearing great things about James Franco in this movie. I do think it'll probably get some awards attention. I don't know how much. It'll probably be more of a Golden Globes thing than I think the Oscars. I don't really see him getting much Oscar love. But I really have no issue with James Franco. I just think he's kind of a dull person. He's not a dull mind. Like, he's probably a very interesting, cool guy. But his work's very dull to me for the most part. I'm not a big fan of him. Yeah, he was... I can't think of any movies he was that good in. Like 127 Hours, Milk, Pineapple Express, and maybe a couple other movies. And he was good in Freaks and Geeks. But for the most part, he just kind of phones it in. He doesn't really have that much charisma. There's young actors out there that are, in my opinion, you know, that's just my opinion. A Bad Mom's Christmas, 3.4 million, 28% drop. That's a pretty small drop. Good job. 28 million budget, $64 million. It hasn't quite reached the first film's total of 113 million, and I don't think it will. But it doesn't need to. This is still a you know, modestly budgeted film. They didn't overreach here. They went from like a $20 million film to under 30 million. Good budget. Kristen Bell, who's great on The Good Place right now. Mila Kunis, who was on that 70s show. You know, they're pretty well-known actresses, I'd say. This had a $16 million opening weekend, but because it's held so well, this might make over $70 million. So they're going to make an okay profit off this. They do need to make a little bit more worldwide. The first film, I think, made $180 million worldwide, so they got a lot of catching up to do. I said it before, I'll say it again. I don't think it was a good idea to release a sequel so quick. And I'm not sure if the Christmas idea was the best idea. The Star, the animated film about the nativity that they made for some reason. And the animation looks like it's from the 90s. It's actually quite horrifying. It reminds me of that show Beast Wars. $20 million budget, $29 million worldwide. Not really making a lot of money. Kind of a weird film. Not really sure why that was even released. That Three Billboards movie. That and Lady Bird are killing it in specialty box office limited. Well, not even limited. They're in wide release now. 1,400 theaters at $13 million domestic. Brought in another $4 million this weekend. This is one of the best reviewed films of the year by far. We'll certainly get some Oscar nominations and some acting nominations. It's pretty much a lock at this point. But yeah, it went up 2%. So that's a nice increase. Went up 800 theaters too. So that's got to be in. But still, this movie's been doing good week to week. Lady Bird, on the other hand, the directorial debut of Greta Gerwig, who's worked with Noah Baumbach. It stars Saoirse Ronan, who just hosted Saturday Night Live, or Saoirse, or how do you say your damn name? I don't know. The girl from Hannah. It's been killing it, actually. This is doing really good. This is performing like Wes Anderson movies have recently, like the Grand Budapest Hotel or Moonrise. This mostly is Moonrise Kingdom's performance from a few years ago. It's kind of becoming the indie darling of the year. This is performing like what Big Sick thought it was going to do, which I've been loving messing with that guy on Twitter. But yeah, 4 theaters, it did 300,000, and it did 1.1 million in 37 theaters, and then it's been in 238. So now they're putting it in 1,000. So they went full wide release, but it's at 17 million domestic, and I don't think its run is over. This film has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. I definitely think it's going to get Oscar nominations. I think Best Actress is definitely a lock for a nomination. And I think Greta might get Best Director. It's kind of crazy to think she might get that nomination. Doesn't happen much with first-time filmmakers. But it did $4 million this week, and it's been doing that consistently. If this makes over 30 mil domestic, I'm sure they didn't spend much to make this movie. I doubt this movie cost much more than a few $1 million. So that and Three Billboards are both doing really good. Both have a high chance of getting Oscar nominations. They're going to be competing in the acting categories. Lady Bird did better in New York, LA. Yeah. Ex Machina, it didn't make that much money, did it? I don't think Ex Machina did that well. It did okay. Didn't it only make like 37 million? What, you mess with that unfunny Indian dude on Big Sick? Yeah, I do. I just go about him how his movie didn't do well, how the movie cost $8 million and they spent $20 million on buying it, and then they spent another $15-20 million to market it and only made $50 million worldwide, and the movie they spent $50 million on it, so it made no money, and it was all like, look, Judd Apatow is so successful, and he's gonna. That movie was so grating to me, and it's not even that I have an issue with that movie. I think that movie's all right, but like, how Judd Apatow just is on there talking about it. I hope it changes people's minds on immigrants. Like, what are you talking about? We're all immigrants. We don't have a... It's called illegal immigration, Judd. People have a problem with illegal. Illegal. It's a law that's been broken, Judd. Illegal immigration, not illegal immigrants. who have jobs and live here legally. We don't need our eyes open to that. I've seen Goodfellas. I'm watching The Sopranos right now. Everyone's family's an immigrant, but Judd thinks he's profound. I thought Ex Machina did go wide release. I don't think you're correct about that, because if I saw Ex Machina in my town, then it went wide release. Ex Machina got released wide. I'm not trying to challenge you. I'm just saying I don't think that's correct. Yeah, it was released in 2,000 theaters. That's a wide release, man. Hate to tell you. Now, it did make money. It cost $15 million and made $36 million worldwide, so it probably did okay, and I'm sure it did well on home video, but yeah, it did go wide. 2000's a wide release. A wide release is 700 theaters, I think. 500 plus. 500 to 700. So, this is a wide release movie. But I love this movie. It's funny, when I saw this movie in the theater, I saw it with a group of friends, and I walked out and said, that's going to get a screenplay nomination. I remember saying that, like, and it did. And it won special effects. But I was like, that's one of the best screenplays in the last decade or so. And I think it's the first time Alex Garland actually wrote a good third act. Yeah, that's the thing. It is just virtue signaling. It's all like, go see this movie because it's a rom-com, but it's a rom-com with an immigrant. It's with an Indian guy, so it's different. It's like, that's not what makes the movie interesting. It just kind of has a decent screenplay, and it's really well directed by Michael Schwartzwelder, who's the guy who not Schwartzwelder. That's the guy from... He's the guy who's Stella, and he worked on... he directed that movie with Paul Rudd and Sean William Scott. What was the name of that movie? Role Models. He directed that. So yeah, he was great. But yeah, the whole thing was just like, it just got so annoying hearing the Big Sick. I mean, there was a trailer for that movie on every day, and you kept hearing Vampire Weekend too. That dunna dunna dun 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 dunna dunna dun, and it's like, oh great, I love songs from 10 years ago that were popular. I love that in the trailer. And yeah, they kept showing that, and it's him and Zoe Kazan. It's like, oh, they're so cute. Let's make this guy mainstream. And I'm like, okay, and he's so unfunny. He's just not funny. Like, I saw him on a movie fights, and he was just terrible, and it was like, I mean, he seems like a nice dude. He seems really cool, but him and Max Landis are always broing up on Twitter. Like, they're really profound and funny, and neither one of them really ever say anything funny or profound, but whatever. You know, it's their Twitters. They can do what they want. Who am I? Who am I? Much more famous than me, although I didn't lose a studio some money investing in a movie that nobody really liked. But whatever. No, I'm kidding. Hey, Pat. If you thought Beast Wars looked horrifying, look up Beast... Dude, I watch Beast Machines. I don't have to look it up. You're talking to an OG Transformers fan, man. I've seen every era of Transformers from the original G1 to pretty much up until recently. So, yeah, I know my Transformers. I know my Optimus Prime as a gorilla. Everyone's like, yo, my Optimus is a semi-truck. It's like, my Optimus is a gorilla. Dog. I saw Ex Machina, and it had good memes with the dance scene. Oh, the dance scene's a highlight. That's amazing. See, I love Ex Machina because it's all about a guy who gets cucked by a woman. It's a movie about cuckery. I really think about it. It's a guy who's a total cuck. He's a total kiss-ass to women. He's obsessed with them. He fetishizes them because he doesn't have any balls. I can't remember the guy's name, the guy who made The Big Sick. I mean, I'm just messing around because Max Landis, I always just kind of make fun of him on Twitter, but I'm just picking fun. Although he did tweet back at me this week like 3 times. That was weird. But one thing I'll give Max, he doesn't block people on Twitter. If you disagree with him on Twitter, he will reply to you. He won't block you. And that is something, because most people like Patton Oswalt will just block you. Sarah Silverman will just block you if you say anything. But Domino Gleeson in Ex Machina, he's a guy who won't listen to Oscar Isaac's character. He's like, listen, I make these chicks... And Oscar Isaac is correct in the movie. He is, because he made them and they're robots. They are his property. He can do whatever the hell he wants with them. There's no moral argument in the movie. I think Max seems like an alright dude, too. I think Max would be a fun guy to hang out with, but probably disagree. No, of course Razor Fist hasn't unblocked. Tiny Fist will never unblock me. Tiny Fist cannot deal with any sense of challenge. Sorry that I pointed out you were wrong about the review for Blade Runner. My bad, Tiny Fist. I'm sure he'll go listen to Bathory for 2 hours and feel better, though, and then watch a Dennis Miller interview and just steal all of his material again for a video. The thing with it, though, is that, like, yeah, it's a guy who's a total cuck, and this guy's telling him, like, hey, this is my property, listen to me. They're not what you think you are. Don't believe this, right? So then the guy gets manipulated by a woman who's manipulating him in a very evil way, making him believe that she loves him and she's going to be there for him and help him out of his dark world and all that because he's sad and lonely. He's not getting a lot of women. And Oscar Isaac's trying to tell him, like, hey, bro, have a beer. It's cool. Chill. You're overthinking this. So then in the terrific third act, which spoilers, you find out that Oscar Isaac's character gets screwed over because Domhnall Gleeson, he gets convinced by the chick that, like, no, you need to be an ally. And then in the process of this, it turns out that Oscar Isaac was completely correct. It turns out that he was right about this. The chick was evil, and he gets screwed over and dies at the end of the movie. And yeah, I agree with you. She should have won for that, not the Danish girl. I completely agree with you. Vikander and the Danish girl's very over. That whole movie, the Danish girl's not that good. But yeah, and then at the end, it's like, oh no, and the woman leaves him, and she's like, I just screwed you over, buddy. This is what it's like when you screw up. Because it's one guy who's like an alpha male trying to tell a beta male to not be a beta male anymore, and the beta won't listen. Because he thinks if he's really nice to this girl and helps her, she's going to be there for him and have sex. And this is to what I actually think is the subtext of the movie, and what Alex Garland's getting at. He's showing you the evil of women, what women can do with power, with manipulation, because they don't have a physical presence. And then it shows you the weakness of a male type. And then it also shows you the flaws and the toxic masculinity of Oscar Isaac's character. But ultimately, at the end of the movie, the evil character is the female character. And that's something a lot of people don't talk about with Ex Machina, is the future being female, perhaps. Is how she manipulates that guy to do what she wants. And that's what screws him over. Then he's basically left for dead, you know, and left alone again, because he thought, oh, if I'm nice enough and help her get out of here, she might date me. She loves me, you know. And that was so brilliant about that movie was at first you're sympathetic with that guy, but then at the end you realize he's just kind of a pathetic guy who easily got tricked into something. While Oscar Isaac, who you kind of see as a villain, even though he has the best performance, I think, and really fleshed out, you start to realize, like, oh, he was actually right about everything he was saying, and I only judged him because I was being manipulated from this guy's point of view of being like, yeah, no, I do too. Everything Oscar Isaac says in that movie is gold. Everything he does in that movie is gold. But it's only about a guy, yeah, who gets manipulated by a woman because he wants to get laid. He gets so easily manipulated by a robot AI chick. A Terminator convinces him she wants to have sex with him. And because he's so desperate and lonely and sad, he has to do it. And it's oddly like Frank. They're almost the same movie. It starts off with, at the beginning of the movie, the guy gets some kind of message that he has to go join this thing on the internet. And then he goes off to some place out in the middle of nowhere. Like in Frank, Domhnall Gleeson goes to work with this band. And then in Ex Machina, he goes to live out in this like internet cabin place and surrounded by waterfalls. And then the whole movie, it's about him falling for something he shouldn't falling for some girl he shouldn't fall for, and not listening to the other guy who's trying to tell him, like, hey man. Ex Machina was a story about an AI female robot programmed to escape, and after she escapes she does nothing. I don't know, dude, because at the end of the movie she's walking around looking. I got the implication she was going to do a lot of things. I thought the movie hinted at the end that we're going into a Terminator scenario. That was my, but maybe I'm wrong. Fassbender was golden in Frank. I agree. I much prefer the first half of Frank before they go to South by Southwest, but it's whatever. Fallen, you're going into full Cartman. I love that Zach Kuckerberg. That's amazing. Zach Kuckerberg. And I am being a little gossipy little schoolgirl today. I'm just going to talk negative about everyone. I'm turning into the church lady. Wasn't that special? Okay, Murder on the Orient Express, directed by Kenneth Branagh, 49% drop. Now, I said this last week. The drops were going to seem a little steep because the numbers got inflated last week because of the holiday. So the drops of like 49, 50% are just going to look steeper than they are because every movie did better last week than it would have if it hadn't been for the holiday. I think I said Murder was going to bring in 6, 7 million this weekend, so I was right about something for once. It's still ahead of Daddy's Home 2. They've been side by side with each other. $55 million budget, $210 million worldwide, $84 million domestic. At this point, I'd say it's a lock. It's going to make $100 million. So Kenneth Branagh has another $100 million film under his belt. I don't know where the worldwide total is going to end up. $250 million plus wouldn't be bad. And they're already talking about a sequel. So when I talked about this on his first weekend and how well it did, I said every weekend after that it was this drop was pretty bad. And I was like, I don't know. But then it really got help from Thanksgiving. And now it's dropping steep again. You know, another 50%. But that Thanksgiving weekend really helped hold it on. And some good weekday holds. Weekday numbers. So this ensemble's doing really well, and it just benefits all the actors involved, especially like Johnny Depp and Daisy Ridley, types like that, who really, I think need to benefit from these ensemble movies to help get their careers kind of... Let's face it, Johnny Depp needs help right now. He needs to get his career back on track. And I think roles like this are the best option for him. Play an ensemble piece and don't be the lead anymore. Build your rep back up as a character actor like you were in the 90s. And then you can make a comeback. Daddy's Home 2, Sean Anders sequel to Daddy's Home. It cost $69 million, has made $82 million domestic and $116 million worldwide. I can't imagine they've made much profit off this movie, if any. Because if it costs $69 million, you got to include marketing, and then there's got to be back end. So, and compared to the first film, which made $150 million domestically, not very good. Not very good at all. All right, so Daddy's Home 2 is not doing as well as Murder on the Orient Express and has a bigger budget. So take that for what it's worth. This and Bad Moms Christmas, I think, did affect each other, and one film might have been able to break out more had it not been for them coming out so close together. All right, let's look at Thor Ragnarok, man. The King Thor. He probably had the best drop this weekend at 42.7%. At one time, I said this movie might end up its final domestic total at $290 million, and it did look that way around week 3 when it had that steep 62% drop. You got to understand, the second weekend 53% drop seemed okay. That 62% drop was like, whoa. But I made the same mistake with Spider-Man Homecoming. It had a 60% drop one weekend, and I thought that was like, well, this movie's not holding. But then, of course, Thanksgiving weekend held it to $16 million. And that was a terrific hold. And then this week at $9 million, that's a pretty good hold too, really, even with the Thanksgiving boost last week. So Thor Ragnarok's at $291. It's guaranteed to make $300 million now. And a little bit more than that. I don't think it's going to reach Spider-Man Homecoming or anything like that, but still, it might reach Iron Man 1. But let's just say 310 to 315 million. I'll say 315 million to 320 even. So that's a great domestic total for a $180 million movie directed by Taika Waititi. And starring Chris Hemsworth, Mark Ruffalo. I definitely think the Hulk actually helped boost the box office a little bit. And Cate Blanchett, I actually think, helped the box office for this movie and isn't getting a lot of credit for it. I also think the trailers obviously helped. The great marketing, use of Immigrant Song, which was Waititi's idea, and that might have been his greatest contribution to the whole thing, was putting Immigrant Song on this, because I think you could put $100 million down just for that song, for it making so much money. The film is currently at $816 million worldwide. We all said it would pass that mark. Some of us even said maybe a little less, 750, but I think we knew a few weeks ago that was wrong. It's still going. Currently, this is it's going to pass Wonder Woman worldwide, not domestically. And I don't think it'll pass Spider-Man Homecoming or Guardians 2, which are both over 860, and Spider-Man made 880. But still, this is the third MCU film this year, technically, because you can count Homecoming, to make $800 million worldwide. But probably could make over $850 million. So it'd be 3 films that opened over $100 million, made $850 million worldwide, and $300 million domestically. 3 different films from the same studio, 3 different characters, with different reach. Thor, Spider-Man, and then the Guardians. Well, the Guardians is an ensemble, but still, those are good numbers, man. Disney and Marvel are still killing it. They're still killing it. I agree Johnny Depp's really good in Blow. I really like him in Gilbert Grape, Blow, and Ed Wood. I think those are the 3 movies he's really, really good in and really transcends being Johnny Depp. Even if Fear and Loathing, I just see it's like an over-the-top impression. But he's really good in some of those movies. He's actually really good in Blow. Very underrated. But Thor Ragnarok has got to be like kind of this... I mean, we all knew it was going to do well. But you have to look at this one. A Spider-Man movie making the money it did. At first it seemed odd, but after a while it kind of made sense. Well, of course the new Spider-Man's going to make this kind of money. It's Spider-Man. Now, it was funny how that movie's box office just kind of crapped all over the Amazing Spider-Man films and showed how much Sony screwed up. But you throw Tony Stark in a movie of Spider-Man, you give him the setup in Civil War, it worked out. Tom Holland really hit with audiences and the word of mouth held up. It became an entertaining high school movie, YA film for a lot of people, more so than a blockbuster, as a crowd pleaser. And worldwide it was huge, so almost made $900 million. And Thor is just I don't think even when I thought Thor would do well, I would have never thought that it was going to make this kind of money. I would have never thought like guaranteed 800 million. I mean, it did it kind of easily. It wasn't really hard for Thor Ragnarok to do it. And Wonder Woman, it took a long time to really get there. And it was so funny when Wonder Woman did so well. It was all about how Wonder Woman made $412 million domestic, and then how it was the highest grossing debut superhero film. And then worldwide, Spider-Man beat it. And now Thor, I mean, like, it's like all the good press that Wonder Woman got the air got taken out of it because how well Thor did and Spider-Man and all that. And then Justice League, all the air got taken out. That Infinity War trailer, more people have probably watched it than went to go see Justice League this weekend. In fact, there's no way that isn't true. More people probably clicked watching the Infinity War trailer. So even if you do like DC, and I'm not a DC hater, and I'm just like a Marvel fanboy, Marvel is destroying them. Even with the success of Wonder Woman, that's one movie that did that well. Marvel's had 3 films this year that did that well. You know? And you kind of have to look at that. So what's Infinity War going to do? I'm going to go out on the limb here and say Infinity War is going to pass Force Awakens opening weekend. I would have no problem saying Infinity War could open to like $255 million. He was very good. Yeah, he's great in Ed Wood. Bella! Movies are about the big picture. It's not about the little details. You can't diss Wonder Woman, yo. I think Wonder Woman is okay. But it is just like an okay movie that I think was considered great because DC made a bunch of bad movies. Okay, speaking of Wonder, the new movie. Apparently if you put Wonder in your title this year, it does well. 12.5 million, 44% drop. A bigger drop than I was expecting, honestly, for this movie. Because currently this movie's had really good word of mouth. I think it's got an A+ cinema score. 85% on Rotten Tomatoes. Directed by Steven Chbosky of Perks of Being a Wallflower fame. Based off a very popular book. Its second weekend only had a 17% drop, but that was Thanksgiving. It went from 27 to 22 to 12. But that's pretty fair. It's definitely going to make $100 million. I thought the film was going to do a little bit better. Like I was thinking, like, man, this film might make $150 million. This might be a Blindside, or it might even do better. But still, $100 million for a $20 million film. This is the most successful film for Julia Roberts and Owen Wilson in a long time. Jacob Tremblay from Room, I guess, is becoming a little bit of a movie star. You know, Room didn't do that well. Room made money because it had such a low budget. And a lot of people thought Room should have won Best Picture and Best Director. I think the first half of Room, before they get rescued, was the best movie of 2015. The first half of that movie, where they're just in the room, is a masterpiece. Like, it's amazing. The way he uses... Oh, going back to Frank, it's the director, Frank, actually, directed Room. Very good director. He has a great use of space. Like, Frank's all kind of just in rooms with people playing music, and rooms, like, most of the movie takes place in a small room, and he makes it feel huge. Very good director. But yeah, Jacob Tremblay, you know, this movie didn't do that great. It made $35 million worldwide. It didn't cost much. But for being, like, a very acclaimed film that was, you know, it didn't do as well as I think a lot, because I think the second half, it just turns into complete melodrama, and I really don't like it. But that first half is awesome. But yeah, it seems like he's becoming really popular. He's very cute, and it just feels like people are catching on. It's like a Haley Joel Osment thing or something. Like, it feels like people are knowing who this kid is. He's making his stamp. He's making good roles. So, there's not a lot of kid actors today who can sell movies and help them. And I'm not trying to downplay Julia Roberts or this being based off a book, but I do think Tremblay's a big reason this is doing so well. I think people are starting to catch on to him. I think he's going, if he can channel this right, I think he's going to be the first kid actor in a long time to really make an impact and have you know, like how they tried to keep pushing Chloe Moretz on us. And even though I really like Chloe Moretz, she never became a thing. They just could not make her into a big actress where she can open movies. But Jacob Tremblay's looking like a kid who might be able to open movies and go into his teenage years like that and as an adult actor. So I'm happy for him. I hope things work out for him. And I'm also happy for Owen Wilson. Maybe he'll have a new career as like a guy in rom-coms and stuff like that. Like, remember how good Marley and Me did? Maybe he'll have a new career in these kind of movies, like dramas for families and stuff. And he can kind of move on from comedy and find a new place and stuff like that. And I think it suits him. Justice League. Okay, 60% drop, which is the biggest drop out. And we all knew that was coming. 16.5 million. Justice League has been out for, it's 3 weeks, right? This is the third weekend. 3 weeks, and it still hasn't made $200 million. And you're going, oh, well, come on, $200 million's a lot. For a $300 million film starring Batman, The Flash, Superman, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, and Cyborg and all that, that's not good. And the first weekend this came out, I remember reading an article on Box Office Deadline where they said they didn't even know if the film could reach $200 million by the end of its run, which I thought was weird. And I was kind of talking about, and I was like, maybe they're right, but because everyone just thought this was going to drop a lot, where it's like, I remember Thanksgiving, people thought this was going to drop like 65%, and in December they thought this weekend it was going to drop. So to their credit, this movie isn't dropping as bad as people thought. It's still having bad drops, But compared to Batman v Superman or even Suicide Squad and Man of Steel, these declines aren't as steep. There hasn't been a 65-70% drop yet like there was for those movies. I think, God, didn't Batman v Superman drop 71% in its second weekend? So the word of mouth's a little bit better at Justice League. Also, though, the movie's not as front-loaded as those. Those movies had much bigger opening weekends. Batman v Superman opened to 166 million. So we're looking at a film that's made 567 million worldwide, and it cost 300 million. Now, with marketing, they have another 150 million here. So you're looking at a film that cost, they said, had to make 600 million worldwide to break even. That was their break-even point. So it looks like they're going to reach that, but I don't believe that. I don't believe that's the break-even point. I can't believe that's the break-even point. For a $400-something million production, I don't see how it's possible. And now articles and sources are coming out saying the film is going to lose the studio like $100 million. So here's the problem with Justice League. It's been released in all of its markets, and its foreign run is going to wrap up soon. It made like 35 million this weekend. It's not. I don't think it's going to reach 500 million foreign. That's insane. Like that's crazy. For let's see what Wonder Woman's final foreign total was. What was it? Wonder Woman's final total was 409 million. I don't think this is going to do much better than that. Like, it might make 450 or something, but it's not really. It's dropping. It's doing okay, but 3 weeks out, and I don't know, $567 million is a lot of money. That's a lot of money, but movies have context, okay? That's not a total for just if this was the total for like Kingsman 2, it'd be like, wow, that's amazing. If this was the total for the last Planet of the Apes movie that didn't do well, if it was the total for that, I'd go, hey, this is a great total, because that movie actually underperformed. But for a Justice League movie to not be at 200 million yet, this seems to be performing on par with the Godzilla movie that opened at like 90-something million and then kind of dropped really bad. It's doing better, but I think that's just because of the holidays. If this would have died in summer. Like, they're so lucky they released this around the holidays. If they would have released this during summer, this movie would have died. I mean, could you imagine how bad the drops would have been in May or something? Oh my god. They usually understate both the budget and break-even point. That's true. Oh yeah, and Paul Dini should write all scripts for DC. It's ridiculous they haven't brought him in yet to do that. He's amazing. Yeah, but Warner Brothers needs to accept they screwed up the whole approach and it's Snyder's poor vision. The film did okay for a remake of Spawn. It cost $20 million just to purchase and install a green screen before shooting Justice League. You know, Hollywood union labor. It would have cost too much to ditch everything Zack did. Yeah, the second one, we'll get to Kingsman 2 later, because it did reach 100 million this week, and it took a long time, but I want to talk about that. But it's been out in 17 days, so Justice League still has a long run. It still has the holidays coming up, but there is the Star Wars shadow looming in the distance. Star Wars is going to kill this movie. Star Wars isn't going to benefit the other movies in the market. Everyone who's going to go see Justice League that weekend will probably go see Star Wars instead. So, when Last Jedi opens over 200 million, I don't think that's going to be a good thing for Justice League. Man, the thing that hurt this movie, because it's not that it's dropping so bad, it was that opening weekend of 93 million, which was just horrible for this movie. That's not that Iron Man 1 had a better opening weekend. Captain America, The Winter Soldier had a better opening weekend. That's hilarious. The sequel to Captain America had a better opening weekend than Justice League. It's ridiculous. So, $93 million opening weekend. It's at $197 million. A lot of us were saying we thought, it might reach 250 mil domestic. I'm not so sure about that now. I'd say 230 is more likely, but it could reach 250. Definitely not making 300 million domestic. That's a pipe dream. That's not even close. And man, that's really bad that somehow Wonder Woman by herself made 400 million domestically, and this movie won't even make 300 million domestically, and was passed by Spider-Man, Thor, and Guardians, and even really Logan by Fox, when you look at it, that made 226 mil domestic with the $97 million budget. Even it did a lot better than this movie. This is the worst performing big budget superhero film of the year, and it has the most famous group of superheroes in it. This is the worst performing one out of all the ones that came out this year. It's pretty crazy when you think about it. Yeah, I feel bad for Ezra Miller. I've seen him in interviews. He seems really fun, and like he needs to come out of the closet already too. I have an inkling this guy's gay, but let's just set on that one. Not that it matters. Jason Momoa, very fun, very cool. I hope Aquaman's a hit. Maybe Aquaman can become a hit on its own. Gal Gadot's going to have an okay time because she has her own franchise. I think this is the last we'll see of Ben Affleck, and Cyborg we probably won't see for a long time. Even though he's actually really good in the movie, unfortunately, and it does suck. I hope they give Henry Cavill another shot at a good Superman movie because the stuff they do in this movie that is good with Superman is so good. I want a movie like that for the entirety of it. So I do think Joss Whedon could make a good Superman-esque movie down the road, or so, you know, I don't think they should just give up on everything. They just need to accept they made this movie. They knew it was going to underperform. They knew this. Okay, the press was negative all year about this movie. There wasn't any positive press about this movie. There was no way they could cover up the behind-the-scenes troubles. It was just too much. There was too much damage control to do. So, all things considered, DC I think they need to take this hit and then continue. I don't think they need to just say, hey, let's just reboot and start over. I think they need to try and keep Affleck if they can, but if they can't, that's fine. They need to just try and fix what they have. The tone they got here, this happier, nicer tone, people did like that about this movie. There are things about this movie people liked, like when the Flash looks when the Superman looks at the Flash, or when Flash and the Superman fly beside each other, race each other. You know, there are things that work. There's moments of humanity that show the DC films could be really good, and I think they should just stick with it. They should just stick with Aquaman and Wonder Woman 2 and a Flashpoint movie and just do that and try to make the next Justice League movie not come out for I'd say at least 3 to 5 years. I'd wait even 5 years. And then maybe that film could actually perform to what a Justice League movie should perform. Maybe that's the film that opens to $180, $200 million, you know? Think long term. But I'd say keep these characters and try to keep that tone. They had the right idea here. You could tell they wanted to make it more funny and more lighthearted, and I think they just need to stick with that. The biggest problem here is they just had too much footage and they had to cut everything together and rewrite a bunch of stuff. But that doesn't mean the next series of movies need that. Okay, you could make a really good Superman movie now without Zack Snyder. This movie proves that Zack Snyder was the problem the whole time. No, Craig, a Batman v Superman movie was the best move in light of the reception of Man of Steel at the time. I agree with you. I do think that was the best move. And the funny thing is, if Batman v Superman had been a great movie, like it looked like a lot of people thought it was going to be and how the trailers looked, that movie would have made like $1 billion or $1.2 billion. It's only because it was so bad that it dropped so hard that nobody cared. That was the issue. The opening weekend for that movie was insane. But yeah, they overreacted. They had the right idea with Batman v Superman, like, hey, maybe we need to fix some of this stuff and address it. But the problem is, you're right, they overreacted. They cut Superman's part down to nothing, and they made a movie with just Batman. And that was the problem. It felt too much like, oh, you're trying to retcon Man of Steel. And now Justice League feels like they're trying to retcon Batman v Superman. That's the thing. Every movie they come out with, the next one with Superman, it's like they're trying to fix the mistakes they made in the previous film. Or that Zack Snyder made. It's ridiculous. It's actually so ridiculous. You remember when they're just fighting Superman in the city in Justice League? Like, they all have that scene and there's nobody in the city. It took me back to, like, the Tim Burton era of Batman movies where nobody lived in Gotham. It was just 20 people lived in the entire city. It's like, oh. Okay. I'm at Walmart and Battlefront 2 and Destiny shelves are full untouched. Yeah, of course. It was... Oh, fool me once, right? Fool me twice, though. That isn't happening. A big reason that Justice League wasn't delayed was because WB CEO Kevin Tsuchihara didn't want to give up his bonus. Really? That's hilarious if that's true. Holy crap. I guess he didn't care about the quarters and all that and how they looked at the end of the year. He's like, I don't care about how my company looks, how WB looks like this. It's not like we need the Justice League movie to do well or anything like that. Ridiculous. So what is there to say about Justice League? I mean, you could say it's a bomb, and some people have been saying that. I'd say it's not a bomb, it's a failure. That's a different thing. A bomb or a flop is a movie that loses money. Oh, shoot. God, I'm about to get in a burp fit. Sucks. I'm going to drink some water. Hold on. Sorry. A movie that bombs or flops is a movie that loses money for the studio. And Justice League, the cards are still on the table if they're going to lose money on this or not. I'm not sure. I think they will. I don't see how they won't lose money. They have too much in it. But it's more just a failure. Like, a movie's going to make $650 million worldwide, and you're going to go, hey, that's a lot of money, and it is a lot of money. That really is a lot of money. But it's kind of like the new Transformers movie. It cost $200-something million. It only made like $130 million domestic, and it didn't reach 600 million worldwide, or it was right around there. Where the franchise typically makes 1.1 billion, it's how much money you put into it. Justice League, had it not been a Justice, like, if this was the box office, even if this had just been the box office for Wonder Woman, if Wonder Woman would have made this money, if this would have been the total for Wonder Woman, like 200-something million, this would be like, wow, great box office. But Wonder Woman made the kind of money that Justice League should have made, 412 million domestic. This is performing like a solo superhero film. Like, if this was how Aquaman was performing, I'd be going, wow, this is really good box office. If, you know, I'd be like, hey, but, like, this is like Batman v Superman. Like, these aren't good numbers contextually. They've killed the brand. They've made it where Superman and Batman and these characters... I mean, they've hurt Batman. Batman can't even open a movie anymore. And when Batman v Superman came out, it was so exciting. People were really excited to go see Batman. They wanted to see... Because every time there's a new Batman, it does build hype, and you want to see how Ben Affleck was going to play it. And the movie was just so disappointing. It really cheapened Ben Affleck playing that part. And what could have been a new franchise and all that. So, it was just a series of bad decisions, the main one being Zack Snyder even being involved to begin with. The fact that, here's the thing, he should have never been hired for Man of Steel. Then he should have been fired immediately once Man of Steel came out. Then he should have been fired after Batman. I mean, pretty much going all the way back. By the way, Pat, when is the cat rape video? We're working on the cat rape video. I will get back to you. I've been consulting with people about the legality of that. But when we work it out, I'll let you know. Justice League will definitely be a flop. I think we're going to have to call it a flop at this point. Yeah, I don't actually think she's that good of an actress. I think people gave her a little bit too much praise in Wonder Woman. She's okay. Her broken English is very cute, and she is very good looking. But, yeah, I'd say Chris Pine's the reason she comes off so good in Wonder Woman. It's because of how he plays the role. He basically takes the Karen Allen role from Raiders of the Lost Ark. He sees her... He brings a lot of the wonder and joy and humanity of the movie as Chris Pine's performance. I'm not saying she's bad, but everyone who's saying she was like the new Chris Reeve and all that, that just made me laugh so hard. It's like, come on. Chris Reeve's performance is so amazing in the first Superman. I mean, she did good. And she is likable. I do like her, and I actually like her in I like her in Justice League too. I actually think she should have been in the movie more. She actually is one of the parts of Justice League that actually kind of works. And you're like, oh, you actually should do more with her. Because she does look right, and she does feel like Wonder Woman, and you want her to be like her own version. Oh, dude, I'm telling you, he looks fat as hell in Justice. You could tell he was drinking. You could tell he was drinking hella hard. Ben Affleck went from, like... It's so weird. When you look at Batman v Superman, he looks the best he had in years. He's in the best shape he's maybe ever been in. He has his hair all dyed. He's really handsome. You know, he looks like Denny O'Neil's Batman. He has the voice down. It's like, oh, Ben Affleck is Batman. And then you see him in Justice League, and man, he's got his face is 3 times fatter. His hair's all white. He's just got gray hair in his beard and in his hair. And it's not like they did that. That's how Ben Affleck looks now in interviews. He looks like he had a rough year with Live by Night and Batman v Superman. Because I think he does care, because he worked so hard to make his perception how he was viewed different. You know, he was thought of as a joke, and he worked so hard to get respected again and then win an Oscar. And now he's turning into a joke again. Sad Affleck and all that, he's become a joke again. He's become a meme. And I do think that affected Ben Affleck. He does not seem happy, and there's always been talks about him having drinking and gambling problems, and he looked drunk as hell in Justice League. He just did not look like, yeah, he looked fat. Oh, of course he doesn't want to be Batman anymore. Think about it. This was a guy who loved Batman. This was a guy who had a mansion and put a Batcave in it. And when he sold this house to Kevin Smith, this was a guy who loved Batman as a character. I mean, Ben Affleck's a comic book fan. He actually grew up reading comics. He likes Batman. He knows the character. And he was so excited to play the part. And he had all that hype for him. I mean, he was all the hype of Batman v Superman was Ben Affleck because he became a draw. Gone Girl was a huge hit. He just came off making Argo. I mean, he was hot. He was really hot at that point as an actor. And you're like, man, him as Batman, if this movie's good, we all thought he was going to salvage the movie with Chris Terrio, and then it was a disaster, and you're like, oh no. And I do think it affected Affleck because then he made that passion project, Live by Night, that cost $65 million. It bombed hard and got bad reviews. And, you know, it's like he couldn't focus on it. So his passion project fell through. So he made his first film as a director. He had 3 films that got great reviews, did pretty good, and he was consistent. Then he makes his 4th film. And even though it's really well shot, Live by Night's beautifully shot, that's his first film that really drops, you know? That's his first film that he directed that doesn't get the reviews and the praise and doesn't make the money. And it's like, oh no. So it affected his his directing career and his acting career. He's been affected by, I mean, that's the thing about it that I think is really getting to him, because he might have been able to take the blow with Batman, but then he could go, well, you know what, I still got my movies that I direct, and then his movie didn't do well. I mean, he did have a really rough, like, 2015, 2016. I'll give Ben Affleck that. He hasn't had an easy time. And then the divorce and everything, and then trying to get back with his wife and the drama of that. I mean, and Jennifer Garner just sounds like the worst person ever. She just sounds like the most annoying, uptight, most terrible, boring woman ever. Who just awful. Everything I've ever heard about her makes her sound like just a raging a-hole. Or I would say biatch. Once again, trying to be censored here. All right, let's get to Coco though. But what does there say about Justice League, man? I'm not trying to hate on DC. You can go watch my review for that movie. I gave it a 6. Okay, that's a pretty fair review for a mess of a movie that it is, and I liked a lot about it. I thought Wonder Woman was all right. I prefer DC to Marvel. DC is my favorite comic books. Like, I prefer DC. I prefer their characters. I'm a bigger fan of Batman, Superman, Green Arrow, Green Lantern, The Flash, Wonder Woman, The Question, Mr. Miracle. I'm much more into all of those characters than I am Martian Manhunter, than I am into most of the Marvel characters. In Marvel, I'm pretty much a fanboy in comics regards. I'm pretty much an X-Men and Spider-Man guy, like a lot of people. There's a lot of great X-Men. I love Spider-Man. I mean, I've read all. I've read Infinity War and a bunch of Iron Man. But God, Iron Man was a B-tier character with B-tier villains forever. A lot of the comics were off and on for me on Marvel. Where I love the mythical nature of the DC characters. The DC characters are like god figures. Where the Marvel characters, it's more about their humanity and these plot lines, which is fine. But I prefer DC. DC's my place. Like, I mean, I'll take Batman Begins over any Marvel movie. In fact, I think Marvel took a lot from Batman Begins. I think if you go back and watch Batman Begins, very similar to the first Iron Man, where it's like, hey, let's ground the superhero stuff in more gritty locations and make it about the guy's process of becoming the superhero, how he puts the costume together and makes the money, and his character arc with that. And even his relationship with Rachel isn't too off from Pepper. I mean, I think the Pepper Potts romance is way better. It sparks, because Katie Holmes and Rachel's character is just kind of bland. But I think Batman Begins actually set more of the template for Marvel than people think. I think a lot of people think that Nolan influenced everyone with Dark Knight and the grittiness. But I think if you go back to watch Batman Begin, it was that earnest thing he had, where he treated it in such an earnest character. I think that influenced Jon Favreau's Iron Man. I just think it had to have. I mean, and then Casino Royale came out, but yeah, for me, I'll take Batman Begins over maybe Winter Soldier being the one that competes with it. I'll take even Marvel. My favorite Marvel movie isn't an MCU Marvel movie. It's probably Spider-Man 2 or something like that, Sam Raimi. Because I prefer movies that work as films, that are more standalone, and instead of the MCU thing where they're all episodes to a great TV show, and some episodes are better than others. And I'm not knocking that, because it looks like with Infinity War, what they've been building to is like a season finale that's amazing, where they're going to kill off characters and have plot twists that are like, oh my god, Infinity War really has me excited. Because it has a sense of awe that the Age of Ultron didn't have. What made the first Avengers have a sense of awe was seeing these people together. Was seeing the Hulk team up with Thor and Iron Man. What Age of Ultron didn't have was they just introduced new characters. Like, hey, we're going to bring the Vision in. Hey, we're going to bring in Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. It wasn't that exciting. Ultron wasn't that exciting. They don't get the gimmick of the first Avengers that made it work. Why it had that hype and why it worked so well as a movie is because it was seeing all these characters come together. Seeing that for a second time, it lost its novelty. But here's the rub. Here's what Infinity War has. They've brought that back, because now it's like, oh, here is Thor meeting the Guardians, characters who are famous apart from the Marvel series and Avengers. They have their own thing. Oh, here's Doctor Strange meeting the Hulk. It brought back the sense of awe. Because the thing I didn't get about Age of Ultron, does anyone know who plays that? Age of Ultron was such a mistake because it didn't bring in any new characters that they introduced. Think about this. This is why Civil War played better. Age of Ultron destroyed the gimmick of the first Avengers. The whole thing that makes an Avengers movie work is seeing the movies mix and match. Avengers 2, Joss Whedon legit introduces new characters in that movie. That didn't get introduced before. It's not like we already knew Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. It's not like we already knew Ultron. None of those things were set up. Ultron, their characters, they come out of nowhere in the movie, so they feel forced in there. That's an issue with Age of Ultron. No one's ever really talked about that. I've noticed that's to me the main mistake with Age of Ultron is that it's a sequel to Avengers instead of being another Avengers movie, which is the team movie. And they didn't make a lot of movies in that phase to throw them together. They didn't introduce any new characters really, so except for the Guardians. So the thing with this movie, like what Civil War had, is when they have that fight with Spider-Man and they bring him in, and then Ant-Man and all that. It was kind of cool, like, oh man. But then once again, that movie they introduced Black Panther as a new character, and it feels kind of forced. The movie's a little too overstuffed. Here's what Infinity War has though: Black Panther's going to have his own movie. Guardians has its own movie franchise. So, and Doctor Strange had his own movie. So now all these characters are going to come together again. And that feeling of awe, I got that from the Infinity War trailer. Seeing Doctor Strange with the Hulk, I was like, I didn't even know I wanted to see that until I saw that. And that's kind of the feeling, seeing Thor with the Guardians. It reminds me of the first Avengers when that came out. Like, it has that feeling all over again, like, wow, I can't wait to go see these two characters meet. And that's how Infinity War feels. And that's really awesome. And I think that's what's going to benefit, is they were able to bring back, because also what's always missing from modern superhero films. You go to see them be entertained, but you always kind of lose because you've seen it before. That's why Chronicle really got me, the flying scene. To actually credit Max Landis and Josh Trank, going back, the one good Max Landis movie. You know, that scene where they fly and it's handheld, that brought back a sense of awe of flying. Really, it was like, oh wow, this is exciting again. And I think that's what Infinity War is going to bring back again. Is it's going to be exciting to see Captain America and Black Panther team up. It's going to be exciting to see the Vision fight to die. It's going to be exciting to see Tony Stark meet Doctor Strange, because they're actors that are big enough, and they're characters that had a big enough movie that it is going to be like Chris Pratt's more famous than Chris Hemsworth. I mean, by far, it's not even really close. I mean, Thor 3 might put Chris Hemsworth over the top, but Chris Pratt has the Jurassic World franchise. He's already another movie. I mean, the Guardians franchise is bigger than the Thor franchise. In particular, the first film was way bigger than the first two Thor movies. So it's like, seeing Chris Pratt meet Chris Hemsworth is going to be a big deal, because it's not just him meeting some other it's him meeting a big star, you know, and all those things, you know, Groot and Rocket. I mean, we're talking about fan favorites in all of the MCU in general. So that's really what's exciting about it, and I think that's what the trailer. I think that's what people got hyped for it. It was like watching the first Avengers trailer. It was like, oh man, I can't wait to see these guys team up together and fight Loki. It's exciting to see like what Spider-Man and Hulk and all them are gonna do and fighting Thanos. You know, because we still haven't seen the Hulk with any of these characters, because Hulk wasn't in Civil War. So in this movie, we're gonna see the Hulk with characters we haven't seen. The Hulk, is Ant-Man gonna ride on Hulk's shoulder? Is Spider-Man going to ride on the Hulk, you know? Do you think the two upcoming Infinity War movies will get near $2 billion worldwide? Yes, I do. Of course. I definitely think they'll be close to 2. Why not? Yeah. I think it'll be the first time since the first Avengers Marvel's going to have a film make over $1.5 billion, because you have to think, they have Spider-Man in there now. They're gonna have Black Panther coming off his movie. They're not gonna have him like introduced in Civil War. I mean, they just have too many characters, and I mean, like, think about how big Thor is now and Doctor Strange and all that. Having them all together in one movie, how can that movie not make $2 billion? It'd have to be bad. It would have to be a bad movie that doesn't work. But even in that trailer, a lot of that stuff looks generic. Like, it looks like stuff from Michael Bay movies or other blockbusters, but it feels earned. Like, when you're watching it, it doesn't feel like it's limited. Like, it actually feels, because you see all that stuff, it looks so cliche in other movies, but it's because they made so many movies and everyone's taking it so seriously. You're like letting them have a pass on the big set piece blockbuster movie, because they've worked so hard to get to this point to where it's like, okay, if you actually kill people now. Wasn't the 90s era, didn't that start with Godzilla 1985? Wasn't that the first one of that era? Was 85 where they reintroduced Godzilla attacking the city? Yes, you're completely right. Thor and Doctor Strange. Think how big the foreign international box office is going to be on this movie. You always have big international box office with Iron Man. But now Thor's taken to a whole new place financially with this recent movie. You know? And Doctor Strange did really well worldwide. So you just an actor like Benedict Cumberbatch being in a movie with Robert Downey Jr., and that is a big deal. You know? And I think that's all going to add up. Oh God, they gave Metal Gear Solid to the Kong Skull Island guy. Jesus, that guy's already a hack, and he's only made 2 movies. I don't know how you could become a hack so fast. Which Godzilla film is the best? Well, everyone says the original from the 50s is the best one. But I don't even really count it because it's such a different kind of movie. My favorite one, my favorite 3 are, for me, are Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, Godzilla vs. Destroyer, and Godzilla 1985 were probably my 3 favorite Godzilla. Well, him fighting King Ghidorah is pretty good too, and Destroy All Monsters. But yeah, I'm actually a fan of the 90s era more than a lot of... like, I think that's like... Godzilla vs. Destroyer to me is like a perfect Godzilla movie. I love it. I mean, it's the one that really... Destroyer! Yeah, Destroyer. I always say Destroyer because they used to play Destroyer everything, but it's Destroyer. Godzilla vs. Destroyer! I think Final Wars is a terrible movie. I never get why so many fans love Final Wars. It's so weird to me. Final Wars is just a big budget version of Final Fantasy VII Advent Children, and it's all done with these green screen action scenes, and it's got this Matrix. I mean, it's so cheesy and over the top, and all the CG so bad. I mean, it's fun. It's like a fun, bad, dumb movie, but I don't know why so many Godzilla fans. And I know they do. A lot of Godzilla fans put it in like the top 5, and I'm like, man, that's not even in my top 10. I think Final Wars was a disaster. Oh yeah, dude, no, Destroyer, yeah. I love that movie. That movie's beautiful. Godzilla's dying. He's gonna explode, so they have to keep trying to freeze him. And Destroyer's one of his greatest foes, and then at the end you see like the little baby Godzilla comes alive, and then isn't he the Godzilla that goes on to Godzilla 2000? That's how I always, because I saw Godzilla 2000 in the theater when I was a kid. I thought that was Godzilla's kid from Destroyer. I was like, oh, cool, they kept the series going. Oh, also, Godzilla 2000's awesome. Like, the 3rd act of that movie is absolutely terrific. I mean, I don't think anyone should make a Metal Gear Solid movie. I actually think it's a horrible idea to make a Metal Gear Solid movie. Here's the problem. Metal Gear Solid, everything in it that's cool is a ripoff of Escape from New York that would work in a movie. Like the walkie-talkie, Snake's character, the voice, the espionage stuff, all that crap would be just, that's really all just all from Escape from New York, and Kojima admits this. And everything that's unique about the games that Kojima does, the trolling and the comedy, they're not going to put any of that in the movie at all. Like, not even close. They're not going to put all that crazy Kojima stuff in the movie. So they're basically just going to make it like a more big-budget version spy film of an Escape from New York type film, which I really don't care about. So that's really my... I don't like Krampus, but I really did like his first movie, Trick or Treat. Do I like Film Gob? I guess it's okay. I mean, I don't know, I haven't seen a lot, so I can't really. People like it for the hamminess, and yes, JR absorbs dad radiation as he's meltdown as a reborn. Yeah, as adult Gojo. Yeah, it's amazing. The ending of Destroyer is amazing. Godzilla 2000 ignores Godzilla vs. Destroyer. Does it? Because Godzilla's design is completely different in that movie. He doesn't look anything like the Godzilla before, so I just thought it was the Godzilla's kid taking over. I'm just gonna watch it that way. I don't care if they don't care about the continuity. I'm just gonna say for myself that's what it is. The difference is that Metal Gear Solid has a lot of trippy philosophical ideas and not really. It's a bunch of pseudo crap that Kojima slaps together that's convoluted, that doesn't make any sense. It's really not that philosophical or that political. I mean, you could say it is, but that stuff's been addressed much better in books and other movies and TV shows. Like, if they're not going to put any of that. I mean, if they try to do that in a movie, it's just going to be bad. I mean, Kojima is. I think Kojima is one of the most overrated people to ever work, and I don't get the praise. I think I can do bad things on purpose, and people praise it, and I don't actually have to work on making a good stealth game. I mean, and I think Snake Eater's the best game out of the series and has the best story. And the thing I like about Snake Eater is more about just Snake getting dropped in the jungle and having to survive, and the plot of it, and it being kind of like James Bond. I've never really got into the weird stuff of Metal Gear. I thought it was always like, it's not pretentious. It's just so silly. Like, it's like just silly for the sake of it. And I know a lot of people think it's genius, and I guess it's all right, but I don't see any of that translating into a movie. 2000 is self-contained and is sequel to Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. I think it's weird 2000 is the black sheep in terms of continuity. Well, once again, I'm going to make my own continuity and just ignore all that because I don't really care about what they think the continuity is. I'm going to say for my own continuity that Godzilla 2000 is it's just a sequel to Destroyer. Metal Gear Solid also pushed video game tech at the time as well. Barely. Kojima gets way too much credit for doing things that other people did before him. Everything that's been in almost every Metal Gear game existed before Metal Gear did it, and then Kojima took it, remixed it, and then people praise it. Metal Gear Solid 2 is one of the most overrated games I've ever played. The plot's awful, Raiden's a terrible character, the third act's really bad. After the first act, it just goes to crap, and it's like, I'm not a fan of a game design developer who's more about trolling you and getting off on himself and laughing and then wanting you to be inside the joke. I mean, Metal Gear Solid kind of pushed tech, but not as much as people think. Not really. The first one's the most innovative one out of the bunch in a lot of ways. Oh god, Metal Gear Solid 4 has more cutscenes than gameplay. There's like 8 hours of cutscenes. And it's just indulgent. It's melodrama crap. It's not good dialogue. It's not good writing. It just goes on really long because Kojima's a troll and he thinks it's entertaining and people call him a genius. And it's like, oh, wow, cool. Really, yeah. Oh, wow, you're mentioning, yeah. That's... I mean, I used to be really into Metal Gear when I was a teenager, but then then when I got in my 20s, I started to read into it more, and I think Kojima's kind of a madman joke, and I think he gets way... I'll take Silent Hill 1 over everything I mean, I'll take a lot of PS1 games over the first... And Metal Gear's a classic, but, oh, God, everything... Metal Gear 4 is so self-indulgent. He's so self-indulgent. He can't help himself. He doesn't want to make a game. He wants to make a movie. And he forgot that he's making video games. God, how long does it take to get to actually start playing Snake Eater? What, does it take like an hour before you actually get to play the damn game? Oh my god, it's like those terrible JRPGs sometimes that come out where it's like all cutscenes and dialogue and you never get to play the damn game. It suffers from the Matrix syndrome, runs out of steam. Oh yeah, that's the thing. He runs out of everything he puts, because I know Metal Gear 2 is one of the first postmodern games. Oh boy. But like he just throws everything in the kitchen sink in that game, and everything he does after that's him just repeating what he did in Metal Gear Solid 2. It's just him repeating a lot of the stuff that I guess was fresh at the time. But all right, let's talk about Coco though. I don't know where to. If I ever want to talk about Kojima, I'll do that in a separate day. I don't think Coco. Honestly, I'm going to be honest here. I think Coco's not doing that great domestically. Okay, because Coco cost $200 million to make, and I've read some sources that say 225. Then you have to include marketing. Okay, for a Pixar animated film, and these are the guys that have had Finding Dory make the money and all that. This is one of their lowest grossing ones because 26 million second weekend, 48% drop, which is steeper than I was expecting actually. This isn't that great of a hold. Animated films typically stay in the 30-something. Now, Moana had about a 50% decline, but, you know, this is looking like, according to a lot of the estimates, that it's going to wrap up around $200 million. That's right at the production costs. So we're looking at a $50 million opening weekend and $200 million domestic for a $200 million film. So they're not going to make any profit in the domestic from the ticket sales because even if Disney's getting 60% of the ticket revenue from this movie, they're still not going to have a break even. Now, worldwide, it's doing good. It's already made $171 million foreign. So worldwide, this film could make $500, $600 million because it's probably going to make over $300 million foreign. So it could even do better than that. We're looking at $350, $400. So it might be a film to make, you know, $600 million worldwide isn't bad. That'll make them profit. They're definitely going to make money off this movie, but it's just how much. Because typically with a Pixar film, there was a lot of huge excluding WALL-E, which didn't have huge profits, but like Up was a big hit, the Toy Story films, The Incredibles, Finding Nemo, Finding Dory. Then they have films that didn't do as well, like Brave and stuff like that. But this is going to fall in the lower end of performances. This is not going to be like Monsters University because it's only at $108 million, and the film cost $200 million, and they're not even they're a ways off from getting to that 200. I mean, I think that's where it's going to end up, the final total. They're going to, even with Christmas and all that. I think it's a few things. I think Mexican culture only has a certain reach. The Book of Life did not do well a few years ago. I think it only has a certain... Domestically, it just did okay, you know. I think it's the time of the year to release this movie. I don't know if this exactly... This might have done better earlier in the year. I don't know, you know. I think that... I think they were hoping for a bigger turnout of a Hispanic audience that isn't showing up. I think they were hoping that this would be like, oh, all the Hispanic people are going to go see this movie. They really didn't. It's getting great reviews. And Lee Unkrich, who directed it, Unkrich, who worked on who directed Toy Story 3, and has been working with Pixar ever since they started. You know, it's got great. I haven't seen it yet. It's got rave reviews, and you know, it's apparently one of their better movies of the last few years. But it's not doing it like, look at Inside Out. That's Pixar at its best, where they came back with a film that had the reviews. And you know, and then it made $356 million domestically and $857 million worldwide on a $175 million budget. You know, and if you look at the films that they make, you know, now the Disney films even do better than this. Big Hero 6 made $650 million worldwide. Monsters University is actually one of Pixar's more successful films. It made $745 million world. Great domestic total, $270. Now, Wreck-It Ralph actually didn't do that great. Wreck-It Ralph, for being such a popular movie, it actually made only like $190 million. It didn't make much more than his budget. Wreck-It Ralph actually wasn't a huge hit. It benefited entirely from the worldwide box office. Let's look at Tangled a few years ago. Just made $200 million. And I think Tangled's a much better film than Frozen. You know, sometimes these Disney films, when they're not the one that breaks out, like a Finding Nemo, they don't do that great. They only usually make $500, $600 million, and the budgets are higher now, you know? Like when Ratatouille cost $150 million years ago and only made $200. Not wrong, that's a good domestic total, but that was an expensive movie at the time. $150 million for an animated film in 2007 was huge. So that film only made $56 million more than its budget. Now worldwide it made $620. So it ended up doing it. But you go back to Ratatouille and you know, because there was a point Pixar was like, Monsters, Inc. was a mega hit, Finding Nemo was a mega hit, and The Incredibles was a mega hit. And then Ratatouille and WALL-E actually weren't as big of a hit. Like, WALL-E wasn't that big of a hit. A lot of people don't know this. WALL-E cost $180 million, and it only made $223 million domestic. It only did $43 million more than its budget. They probably didn't make a lot of profit off this movie. That's not, you know, they sell merchandise, there's television. WALL-E made money. I'm not trying to say it didn't. But a lot of people would probably assume WALL-E was this big hit. And I love WALL-E, you know. WALL-E's like a solid 8, 9 out of 10 movie, you know, especially the first half. But, you know, but you look at it and it's like, yeah, it didn't do that great. Now, adjusted for ticket price inflation, that $223 million is, you know, $278. But still, you know, WALL-E wasn't a big hit. A lot of people thought WALL-E was going to make $350 million domestic. And its opening weekend was pretty good. And it ended up making $530 million worldwide. So it made profit, but it wasn't one of their bigger movies. And that's what I'm trying to get at here. Pixar hasn't always had every film be a huge hit. Not everything's Up, or Up came out, had a similar opening weekend to WALL-E, and then went on to make $735 million and $300 million domestic. That's when Pixar really has a breakout, where it's like, whoa, you know, when Pete Docter has his big hit, or Andrew Stanton, or Brad Bird. And you know, there's still their biggest hits are, you know, The Incredibles. You know, look at The Incredibles with adjusted ticket price is made 300. I mean, look at these adjusted ticket price numbers for these movies. Finding Nemo, $550 million. Toy Story 3, $466 million. Monsters, Inc., $440. Inside Out, $385. The Incredibles, $375. Up, $350. So, like, you just look at these totals. These are all amazing performers. These all made a lot of money. And Inside Out's in the top 5. Where Coco, I don't think is going to crack. I don't think it's going to crack the Pixar. Now, these aren't all Pixar movies. Like Big Hero 6 and Tangled aren't Pixar, but they're Disney, and John Lasseter worked on them and produced them. And then when you compare it to the performance of Frozen, Frozen outdid all of these movies, and Zootopia. Zootopia made $1 billion worldwide and outgrossed most Pixar movies. And Frozen, so Pixar, outside of the Toy Story franchise and like Finding Nemo, and Incredibles 2 will probably make $1 billion, I would assume. I mean, it's pretty safe to say now when you guys say that Incredibles 2's got a good shot at making like $900 to $1 billion. You look at this, not all of their films are always big hit. Brave, $540 million. Brave made $237 domestic, $540 worldwide, cost $185. So like, not every Pixar film made. Now that doesn't run. Every film doesn't have to make $300 million. It's kind of like Marvel. It's more about the brand. So when you do make the big movies, they make a lot of money. But Coco is looking to be on the lower end of that. I don't think it's going to reach the total of Brave, WALL-E, any of those. I think it's going to end somewhere. I don't think it's going to make $220. It might make $210 million domestic. but the drop seems too steep. The drop seems too steep this weekend, and even even last weekend, it did good. But it's really going to have to hold well through the holidays to really make an impact, like if they want to do better. What do you guys think? Do you think I'm right about this? That Coco isn't doing as well as some of the other ones? Ratatouille and Incredibles had the same music director. Both soundtracks were great. Yeah, doesn't Michael Giacchino do all the music for all Pixar movies for the most part? Outside of Randy Newman. I think he does the score for The Incredibles and, like, Up and everything. Yeah, John Lasseter, that news came out, didn't help. That really didn't help what happened with John Lasseter. But that is the weird thing. I don't know. I didn't know how Coco was going to do. And even though Thanksgiving weekend inflated the numbers, this isn't the world's great, you know, for an animated film that has this hype, that's got the reviews and everything like this. This hasn't been a year for animated movies, quite, except for like Despicable Me. Like last year, a lot of animated films made a lot of money. If you go look at the worldwide box office of 2016, this is this year. And if you look this year, you have Despicable Me 3 up here that made $1 billion, which I knew that was going to make that because coming off Minions and all that. So that's the big king here. But really, outside of that, everything else, there wasn't really an animated film. The Boss Baby, that was the other one that made a lot of money. Cars 3 didn't perform great this year. And that was Pixar. Cars 3 cost $175 million and just made like it only made like $150 million domestic and $375 million worldwide. See if we can find Cars 3 on here. So Pixar's not having a great year financially. Once again, that doesn't include merchandise and all that. Obviously, they sell merchandise. But yeah, like, Cars 3 made $383 million worldwide. It was a very expensive movie. Just kind of made probably a little bit of profit. It hasn't been a big year for... Like, the Emoji Movie did good because its budget was $50 million. But that domestic total's crap, $86 million. You know, it just... and last year, Finding Dory made $1 billion. Zootopia made $1 billion. Secret Life of Pets made $875 million. It was the most profitable film of last year. It made the studio like $370 million in profit. So last year was a huge year for animated films. This year, on the other hand, is a year of horror films where Get Out made a lot of money, and Split made a lot of money, and Annabelle Creation made a lot of money, and of course It. I'm also forgetting the Lego Batman movie, but then the Lego Ninjago movie didn't do well at all. So this was a weird year for animated films. They're having a rough time, and I think Coco's reflective of that. This just isn't a year overall. It seems like if it's not a superhero movie or established franchise or IP like Beauty and the Beast or Fate of the Furious or something like that. I mean, everything in here is franchisey or IP. Like, it's an IP. It's like It, Pirates of the Caribbean, Thor, Wonder Woman, Guardians, Wolf Warrior 2, which is the exception because it's a Chinese film, and then Spider-Man, the Despicable Me franchise, the Fast and the Furious franchise, and then Beauty and the Frickin' Beast. So really, it's just like, yeah, this wasn't a great year for like the original animated film and all that stuff. All year, animated films have been, even, you know, and The Boss Baby made a lot of money, but it still didn't have a big budget. So that's really, if it had a bigger budget, that would help. But Sausage Party, I think's got good parts, but I don't think it's very good. I think it's really disappointing. It's okay though. I think it's okay. Yeah, superhero fatigue, my ass. I know. Every year we have superhero fatigue, really, because Logan's number 11, Thor's number 8, Wonder Woman's 7, Guardians is 6. Spider-Man's 4. It's like, yeah, superhero fatigue. Yeah, exactly. There's not even an ounce of superhero fatigue. There's DC Cinematic Universe fatigue. But let's wrap up here. Kingsman 2 finally reached 100 million after 73 days. It took a long time to get there. I was scared it wasn't going to reach it. It doesn't look like this is going to pass the first one worldwide. I thought it would, but it seems like it's done at 294. So the original film at 128 mil domestic and 414 million worldwide is bigger than this film's, which that film cost 80 million, this one cost 105. That's not too big of a budget, really, for it being a sequel. And yeah, that opening weekend, when that opening weekend wasn't 55-something million, I knew that opening weekend wasn't going to be good. The marketing was bad for this movie, and then when the reviews came out, you know, don't get me wrong, it's Matthew Vaughn's second biggest film after the first one, and I'm sure this still made profit. You know, 400 million worldwide on $100 million, but I'm assuming this, this really, for what the sequel, this should have made 150 million domestic, just considering how well the first one did and how much goodwill it has, still not today. This should have made 150 million domestic and almost 500 million worldwide. This really should have been a big hit. And the next film in the franchise, if they make one, I think they're probably going to go with a lower budget, smaller scale movie, back to just Eggsy and not bring in all these other characters. And Matthew Vaughn may not return. I'm not sure. I could see someone else coming in to direct the next film, like a Joe Cornish or someone like that. The guy did Attack the Block. I could see him coming in and doing the next one on a lower budget. So one thing there, Coco though, doing okay, doing good, but it's going to have to rely almost entirely on the foreign box office. So it has yet to be seen how Coco's overall performance is going to be. Darkest Hour, the Joe Wright film about, I think it's about Churchill. I can't remember. It's not doing that great, although I think, people don't like going to see boring movies. Like, it's in 4 theaters. It's doing okay. The Foreigner with Jackie Chan, how's that doing? 135 million worldwide. Oh, it did get updated. That was at 88 million foreign at one point, so the film's still releasing in some markets. That's awesome. So that ended up making a little bit of profit. It made over 100 million more than its budget. Let's see if American Made's been updated since it's, nope, it's still at that same total. That's so upsetting. I wish American Made had done a lot better. That's just what it is, though, let's see, anything else? Victoria and Abdul, let's see where that's at worldwide. That's actually done really well. 62 million. I guess it doesn't have much more. Oh, Tyler Perry 2, Medea Boo. Yeah, that didn't end up doing that great. The first one made 73 million, and this one isn't even at 50. So it's kind of an underperformance for a Tyler Perry movie, and especially that it cost 25 million. It's one of his more expensive films. The Shape of Water, Guillermo del Toro's new film. His best reviewed film since Pan's Labyrinth, opened in 2 theaters this weekend. It has an 83,400 theater per average, which is great. 166,000. I'm assuming that was LA, New York. So I don't know how well this is going to do. Even though this film has great reviews, and it could be a movie that I would really like, that doesn't mean it'll do well, because even Pan's Labyrinth wasn't a big hit. Pan's Labyrinth, I saw it in the theater twice, and it's one of my favorite movies maybe ever. And it cost 19 million and only did 37 mil domestic. Now, it did have subtitles, but I saw this film in the theater twice, and yeah, it did good. It made its money worldwide, 83 million on 19 million. It's one of his more profitable films, but it's a film to me that I think it's funny, if this film came out today, it probably would be a hit. It really was just 2006. Like, really, today, this film, how good it is in the reviews, it probably would make 80, 100 million, but back then, that just didn't happen all the time. But yeah, that's the thing about Shape of Water. It could be a great movie, and people might like it, but it depends on how big of that audience reach is. So it only cost 20 million. So I think worldwide, at least, it's going to make profit. I don't know how it'll do domestically, but I'm sure they'll be happy with something over the budget. If this makes like 30 mil domestic, they're gonna rely on the international on that one. And Sally Hawkins might be getting some. She's probably a lock for an Oscar nomination. Last Flag Flying, Richard Linklater's film, 100,000 this weekend, 37% drop. It's right under 1 million. It doesn't really look like it's going anywhere. Wonder Wheel, 140,000 in 5 theaters. That's a 28,000 average. Oh, this is Woody Allen's new movie. That's right. I totally forgot he had a new movie coming out. That's so crazy. And Woody hasn't made a good movie in a while. Last good one was Blue Jasmine, 2013. Magic in the Moonlight sucks. Irrational Man. Cafe Society's okay. To Rome with Love sucked too. But Midnight in Paris and Blue Jasmine are 2 of my favorite Woody Allen movies ever. And Match Point. I love all 3 of those movies. But yeah, I forgot about Wonder Wheel. What's the reviews on this movie? Holy crap. I love that poster, though. I gotta say, that's an amazing poster. It's a really, really nice poster. Yeah, how did I forget about Wonder Wheel? Yeah, another bad reviewed Woody Allen movie. Doesn't mean it's not enjoyable. Like, Woody Allen makes movies that are always watchable. But that's usually all when it's a mediocre Woody Allen. You can usually watch it. God, I love the look of this, though. Look at that poster with the wheel behind her and everything. I love the production design. Yeah, Wonder Wheel gathers a charming cast in an inviting period setting, but they aren't enough to consistently breathe life into Woody Allen's project that never quite comes together. Yeah, that's every other Woody Allen film. It's like only in the 70s and 80s he consistently made one great movie after another. Yeah, it's unfortunate. That's what's missing from this movie, pleasure. Alan is apparently trying to channel Eugene O'Neill in his portrayal of the forlorn family, but Wonder Wheel is no long day's journey into night. It's not even long, it just feels that way. Oh, Leonard Maltin. Actually, 100 minutes is pretty long for an Alan movie. So yeah, I didn't even know this was coming out this weekend. Woody Allen always makes all of his money in France and stuff like that, so... Alright, I think that's it, guys. I think that's everything. You guys have any questions before I get out of here? Because we're coming up on 2 hours, and I did not want this to be a 2-hour show. I want it to be like 90 minutes, and I screwed up. Hello, Renaissance. I think he should maybe not make a movie every year, but I get he likes working. You know, he's old and it makes him happy. I know 26 versus 7 is profitable. They probably wanted an Annabelle type of hit. Yeah, you're not wrong. Alright, guys, any questions real quick? There's something out there. What do you think of Juno Temple? I do think there's something different about her. I agree. There is something unique about her. I haven't really seen her in much. So, but she seems alright. I mean, I don't think she's had her big breakout movie yet, but I hope it works out. Quantity over quality. Yes. Check out the trailer on YouTube. Michael Shannon and Benedict Cumberbatch. Oh, cool. Has Del Toro even ever had a big hit? No. Hellboy 1 didn't do that great. It didn't make 100 million worldwide. Hellboy 2, I shocked even got a sequel. Had a good opening weekend, but then it got killed when Dark Knight came out. Pacific Rim, I don't think it lost money, but it didn't make any money either, really. So, no. What video games do you think would actually work as a movie franchise? Almost none. This is what people don't seem to get. Video games really aren't made to be movies. And people are like, oh, this would be a good movie. It's like, it really wouldn't. You just think it would be a good movie because you like the game. But then if you actually sit down... Now, I do think BioShock could have been a good movie. And Gore Verbinski's BioShock did look kind of awesome. And I do think you could have made a good movie out of that. There's certain things. I think you could make a good Portal movie if you tried. I think you could make a good, God, because most of them I don't think would be, because the Prince of Persia could have been a good movie. I think it's an okay. It could have been a good movie. I think Mortal Kombat could be a good movie actually if you just committed to it being a full-on martial arts movie. But most video games, yeah, like Halo, that wouldn't be a good movie. It would just be all the aesthetics would be James Cameron. You go, oh, this is Aliens and Avatar and all that. These are all those aesthetics James Cameron put in his movies. It would look like a knockoff, and you would realize how generic and B-level the stories are in the Halo games because they would have no plot. And that's the issue. What passes for a really compelling plot in a lot of video games and stories wouldn't really work as a movie most of the time. But BioShock was one you probably could have made into a good movie, I think. Even though he made that terrible movie this year, Gore Verbinski, that bombed, that looked like... But the stuff he was talking about, like making a $200 million R-rated movie and a horror film, I think that could have been pretty cool. That's the thing. Video games are about gameplay. That's what it's about. So it's hard to make that into a movie. It's about you playing the game and coming to fulfill yourself through that, not through the story. Did you know? Yeah, I did know that they tried to make an Evangelion movie. Yes, of course. That was big news for a long time. Because I used to get, like, movie magazines. Like, I can't remember the name of some of them. But I used to go to Sam and Goodies and Suncoast Video. And that was always the thing everyone would talk about. Would be like the Evangelion movie and who was going to direct it and all that, and they were making it and it was supposed to be coming out. Yeah, Cure for Wellness. No, yeah, the cinematography for Cure for Wellness was amazing, but yeah, the script was pretty... The first 20 minutes is pretty good. But yeah, I generally think when you approach a game, you should approach it like a video game, and what that is, and when you make a movie, you should approach it like a movie. Now, that's not saying that one day there won't be, like, but people always go, what about comic books? So I'm like, well, comic books work better for movies. They're kind of formatted in this serial way and written to where you can take them and adapt them into movies a lot. Video games really aren't like comic books. Comic books are very pulpy and go back to a lot of old tropes of storytelling. And video games, on the other hand, they're more about gameplay. Like, even though Uncharted has a great story, and it does, if they made that movie, everyone would... And they're talking about making it, we'd all just go like, oh, Indiana Jones. We've seen it. It just felt fresh in a video game because it was new in the way they did it and the game design and all that. That doesn't mean it'll translate into a movie. Look at Assassin's Creed, Everyone's like, oh, look how much that... But it's like every time they try to make one, you have a director on that who made Macbeth, very acclaimed. You have the cinematographer from True Detective Season 1. You have Fassbender. You have a big budget. And the film's terrible. It's all about he doesn't even make the movie about them being the assassins. It just seems like something that doesn't really work totally. and I don't know why. I really don't know. I don't know why. Metal Gear Solid is formatted to be a movie. I guess so. A really bad movie. You know, Metal Gear Solid was a movie. If those were movies, like with the same writing and dialogue and everything, they'd be terribly reviewed and possibly get Razzie noms. It's only because those are in video games that they get a pass. Like, Kojima's dialogue is so bad, his characterization is actually pretty decent, but his dialogue's so bad, his plotting's so bad. The logic is so bad that, like, if that was a movie, everyone would be like, that's one of the worst movies ever. I mean, like, Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty would be one of the worst reviewed films probably of that ever. It'd be considered one of the worst films of all time. And, but because it's a video game movie, everyone's like, yeah, it's really good. It's like an anime. Like, if you took an over-the-top anime and you made it live action, exactly how it was, it wouldn't work. But in anime, it works. I'm saying they are different. It works in the context of what it is. Metal Gear Solid works for Metal Gear Solid. The problem is all these game movies don't stick to the darn... Mortal Kombat, though. Paul Anderson. The one time Paul W.S. Anderson made a good movie, I think, was Mortal Kombat, because he actually did stick to the game. Square Enix seems to believe that story and graphics come before gameplay in video games, though. They didn't used to believe that. That's how they eventually got. They weren't always that way. They used to think that all of those things mattered together. That a game had to have good play and good graphics. It didn't used to just be about that. Worse than The Room. I mean, I don't think it... The Room's a bad movie that's loved. Metal Gear Solid 2 would have been an expensive, big-budget movie that bombed and was hated. So it's kind of apples and oranges with that one. Like, Kojima's not a good writer. Like, I don't know where people get... Like, he's not a good... I mean, like I said, most of the cool stuff in those games that are likable comes from Escape from New York. Take Snake's characterization out of those games, and you really don't have a lot. It really gets by a lot on that and that, which I'm not knocking. That's fine. It's cool. In a video game, it's awesome. I just don't think it would be a very good movie. I don't really want to see Snake in a movie. I mean, it'd be cool to see him be stealthy and kill people, I guess, but really at that point, it wouldn't be Metal Gear. It'd just be a stealth movie. Hardcore Henry was like a game. Oh, that makes sense. I'm not mentioned Rush. Look at the Netflix Castlevania animated series, has a nice flowing plot. Well, yeah, that's different. I think you can make good animated stuff out of video games in some ways, but it's like with movies. It's like the screenplay never comes together because you have to write so much from scratch when you write a movie script off a game that I just think something gets lost in translation. Yes, Castlevania's confirmed for a second season. I think I don't know what it is with cinematic stuff. I think it just gets lost. Like Doom. Doom could be a cool movie in my head. I'm like, yeah, some soldiers go to fight Hellspawn and all that. But then you see it and it's like, yeah, I just want to go play Doom. I don't want to sit here and watch this generic action movie. So yeah, Kojima, yeah, it's like, that's the thing. Metal Gear's gameplay is what makes it so great. The stealth elements and all that. And you know, if we were just going off story, oh my god, holy crap. So I'm not sure. I'm not really sure. I don't know if there eventually has to be a good video game movie. I don't know why it's so hard to make one. I don't know why. It's like a sequel to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Nobody can figure it out. Not even Tobe Hooper. So I don't really know why there's this issue with video game movies. Oh man, Alien inspired like every video game, and then Aliens inspired even more video games. Although Aliens was inspired by Starship Troopers, so it just goes full circle, really. Netflix Castlevania was also written by veteran comic writer Warren Ellis. Well, Warren Ellis is just a great writer in general, really. Alright, well, I did not want this to be a 2-hour episode. I don't even think last week was a 2-hour episode. I think we were like an hour and a half, and that hour 40-something, and I was trying to keep it there, so I went a little long here. I'm sorry for anyone who wants these to be shorter, but I'm going to just end this here before this goes way too long, because I'm going to get caught up talking to you fine people, and you guys are all too fun to talk to. If anyone was upset during this 2 hours and thought I was a little mean to certain people or being a little, I don't know, petty, it's a Sunday. I woke up a little rough, and it's just one of those days. It's just one of those days. I'm not in the best mood. Just a little stressed out about too many things. But doesn't mean I can't have fun. Doesn't mean you guys can't have fun too. And you guys all know I'm just kidding around. So I apologize, Max. I'm sorry. And I'm sorry, Tiny Fist. I'm sorry very much. I just want a Pikmin animated miniseries. That's my girl. That's my blood countess. Oh, God, I can't say Countess. It's Countess. I kept trying to say, like, counting. Like, you're an accountant. You're my blood accountant. Like, oh, how much blood do I have this week? Illumination is doing an animated Mario movie. Ugh. Yeah, that's wrong. Say, yeah, I'm just grumpy. Just grumpy, that's all it is. And when you got to do a live stream every week, your mood's, you know, I'm not going to have the same mood every Sunday, so some days I'm going to come in and be in a bad mood, you know. And, you know, some weeks I'm in a happy mood. It's what it is, you know. I'm not trying to be a jerk. But that's it for this week's Box Office Addict. If you're on here, you're a Box Office Addict yourself. I'm not here to help you with your addictions. I'm here to encourage you to fulfill your addictions even more and get more addicted. So, thank you. Let's throw out the thing this week. Give me your predictions for... God, I guess there's really nothing to predict next weekend, right? Nothing's really coming out. Next weekend's going to be a really slow weekend, guys. It's going to be rough. Blood Accountant. Blood Accounting. Fitting, considering my nickname, yeah. Blood Accountant. Blood Accountant sounds like a really, like, B-grade bad vampire movie. Like, that would be on Showtime Beyond in 2004. Yeah, I know. I've seen that concept art from Weta. Weta's the perfect company to do that. I still think one day we'll get a great mech movie. I don't think there's ever been one made, honestly, in my opinion. A truly great one. But, yeah, thank you for watching, guys. I love you guys. Leave your opinion in the comments section. Like and subscribe. And I guess just, yeah, your predictions for, I guess, what Justice League's going to do next week. And let's make it Justice League. Do you think it'll go below 10 million or under? Let's do an over-under. Let's do this gambling style, all right? But, yeah, thanks for watching. I'll play your guys' outro music. And make sure to rewind your VHS tapes before you bring them back to the store. I don't want to have to do it. You know, it's a tough market today. You could at least be a little considerate. Just a little bit. What do you think is the best Marvel movie? Iron Man 1 or Winter Soldier? Actually, probably Winter Soldier because it has a better third act, but for its first 2 acts, Iron Man 1. That's it. Avengers 3 will open bigger than The Last Jedi. It should. It should open bigger than that. If it doesn't, they screwed up somewhere. Alright. See ya!